Chapter 2016. Yiqing Luo was filled with apprehension and uneasiness. The crowd couldn't tell. When Yuhan called out Yiqing Luo's name, other than shock, there was only shock in everyone's heart. Other than astonishment, there was only astonishment. The people from the upper realm all knew Yiqing Luo. That was the external help that Wolfsang technique had invited. Knew Yiqing Luo? Yiqing Luo's genius reputation had spread all the way to the upper realm. One must know that the old man had already given them a huge shock. That old man was extremely respectful towards Yuhan, and even had that fearful look. It was enough to tell that Yuhan's status and ability were above the old man. Yuhan knew Yiqing Luo. The strong cultivators from the upper realm knew Yiqing Luo. What kind of concept was this? As for the matter of Yuhan knowing her name, Yiqing Luo wasn't surprised at all. Ever since the godless array came out, the netherworld disappeared alone. He would definitely look for Yuhan, and you knew. And through Yuming, it wasn't strange that Yuhan knew her name. Yiqing Luo's eyes were calm as her lips curled slightly. Mr. Yuhan is rather confident in yourself. Yuhan raised her brows. You know me? Through Yuming, naturally. Yiqing Luo replied. So it's that waste? No wonder a waste like you would know him. Yuhan's lips twitched coldly when he heard that. Looks like in Mr. Yuhan's eyes, other than yourself, everyone else is a waste. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but ridicule when she heard Yuhan's words. This wasn't the first time she heard Yuhan say the word waste. It was extremely ear-piercing. In my eyes, all of you are indeed waste. Yuhan didn't bother about Yiqing Luo's ridicule as he arrogantly raised his head and sneered as he gave her a scornful glance. Even if you want to bring this bunch of waste and leave the West Continent, I have no intention to let any of you off. Everyone must die here, using your fresh blood to celebrate the new birth of the West Continent. Yuhan's voice paused after every word. The pressure from a machine made it difficult for the people around him to breathe just by hearing his voice. From this, one could see how majestic his aura was. What a pity, Yuhan. I'm afraid that your plan to let the West Continent be reborn will never be able to be realized. Yiqing Luo clenched her 5 fingers tightly as her lips curled into a sinister smile. She did not waste any more time talking to Yuhan. Now, the power of the divine artifact still lingered in her body. If Yuhan insisted on fighting with her, then he had to hurry up. Yiqing Luo's attack, following her words, had already struck towards Yuhan. Yuhan stretched out her arm. The silver broadsword that was stabbed into the ground suddenly rushed into his palm. He brandished his sword a few times in a fancy way. Without any hesitation, he welcomed Yiqing Luo's attack. The silver broadsword flickered with silver light, looking extremely majestic and terrifying. The two of them quickly intertwined. After exchanging about 20 moves, the disparity between the two of them became clearer. Even if he possessed the power of a divine artifact, he was gradually at a disadvantage under Yuhan's relentless attacks and the consumption of his profound energy. The scorching feeling of the profound jade heart within her body had already caused her chest to faintly feel somewhat uncomfortable, forcefully expending the power of the divine artifact for the second time, as well as exceeding her load. And after the battle with Yuhan, Yiqing Luo felt more and more powerless. Only she could vaguely feel an invisible energy in her body, merging into her blood, faintly boiling. Asterisk. Chapter 2017. What was this power? Yiqing Luo frowned as she raised her hand to press on her chest. The temperature from her palm was different from her body temperature. Profound jade heart couldn't hold on any longer. Yiqing Luo looked not too far away with an icy cold face. After these tens of moves, Yuhan didn't seem to be affected in the slightest. How powerful was Yuhan's power? She exhausted the power of the divine relic and was unable to hurt Yuhan at all. Yiqing Luo's breathing became hurried. She could feel the temperature in her palm gradually rising. This was the warning from the profound jade heart. Without the tranquility bead, her profound jade heart couldn't be maintained. The second release of the divine relic's power had completely overloaded Yiqing Luo's body. Yiqing Luo's eyes gradually revealed a trace of blood-red color. extremely flirtatious. Yuhan's gaze suddenly turned cold. His vision was fixed on Yi Qing Luo's blood-red eyes. The blood-red eyes made her look even more devastatingly beautiful. This blood-red color, why did it feel a little strange? Yuhan's heart inexplicably raised an uneasy premonition. His eyes turned cold. He had to end this quickly. This young lady called Yi Qing Luo had created too many miracles. He absolutely couldn't allow anyone or anything to escape his control, as long as he could nip all the sprouts in the cradle before the miracle happened. That would do. The broadsword in Yuhan's hand spun one round in midair, only to hear a loud rumble. The profound light appeared and exploded in all directions. The profound chi was like a spider web, densely enveloping Yi Qing Luo in it. However, the young lady in the profound light. He suddenly raised his head. A pair of blood-red pupils were extremely conspicuous in the profound light. What made Yuhan even more shocked was Yi Qing Luo's eyes were filled with a sinister coldness, as if even the air had condensed into frost. A gush of red, strong airflow revolved around Yi Qing Luo's body, gradually forming a huge whirlpool. The flirtatious red light looked extremely strange. Her body gradually floated above the whirlpool. She was dressed in a blood-red robe, like a blooming rose. She spread her fingers. The glowing flame fan was like a blazing flame, dancing in her palm. Yuhan's throat tightened, somehow feeling that the current Yi Qing Luo had changed her temperament in an instant. This change made his heart palpitate. Yi Qing Luo's lips slowly curled upwards as the corners of her lips curled upwards, revealing a sliver of chilliness. She took a slow step forward. Step by step, he walked extremely slowly. But with every step she took, it was as if she was stepping on a whirlpool. She was like a goddess on the battlefield. It made one's heart tremble as they looked up at her. "You want to take my life?" Her sweet voice was laced with a hint of coldness. It was like a chilling frost. Yuhan's face darkened, and she was about to retreat. The next moment, Yi Qing Luo raised her arm and triggered the whirlpool, blocking in front of Yuhan. "Now, I want to take your life." The red-clothed girl with blood-red eyes looked like a bloodthirsty war god. With a flick of her fingers, silver threads shot out. If one looked closely, one could clearly see that every silver thread was lingering with a faint red glow. A miserable scream was heard. Yuhan's body was bound by the silver threads. Fresh blood spurted out. Suddenly, Yuhan's body was hung up in midair by the silver threads. Hee. Yi Qing Luo laughed softly. Her enchanting face was extremely bewitching. This imposing manner, not Yi Qing Luo. This was absolutely not the Yi Qing Luo who was exhausted by the divine relic. Chapter 2018. Yuhan could clearly feel that Yi Qing Luo's entire body was emitting a strange aura from her bones. The sharp silver threads were like sharp blades, incessantly cutting his body, as though they were embedded into his bones. Sir. The elderly looked at Yuhan, but before he could make a move, he was subdued by Yi Qing Luo. He was stunned on the spot. Wolf Saint Magic's face had already sunk. This Yuhan was actually so weak. She hadn't even touched the corner of Yi Qing Luo's clothes and was tortured by her directly, not even comparable to her own subordinates. With this kind of ability, she dared to cooperate with her. Wolf Saint Magic's expression was unfathomable. His gaze towards Yuhan was extremely chilly. "Old Wolf, don't tell me. This is your trump card?" Butterfly Saint Magic, who had long hidden behind Wolf Saint Magic, asked cautiously. Wolf Saint Magic didn't respond for a long time, which meant this was indeed Wolf Saint Magic's so-called trump card. The top exponents from the Earth domain were the powerful external reinforcements that Wolf Saint Magic had invited. "This is your trump card?" A sharp and unkind voice was heard. This kind of trash that Yi Qing Luo easily played with. "Is your trump card?" The person who said this was obviously the one who had always been at odds with Wolf Saint Magic, Pharaoh He. His face was filled with ridicule as he sneered. "I thought you really had some incredible trump card, to point your fingers at us and act so arrogantly. Did you really think that after his lordship went into hibernation, you're the boss?" Pharaoh He. Wolf Saint Magic squinted his sinister cold eyes, reflecting a piercingly cold glint. If my trump card is useless against Yi Qing Luo, then all of us will die. Are you sure you can still continue to laugh? Pharaoh's ridiculing expression froze. Butterfly Saint Magic tugged his arm and looked at Wolf Saint Magic. Old Wolf, did you notice Yi Qing Luo's sudden change? Wolf Saint Magic's sinister gaze swept past Pharaoh coldly. Finally back to Butterfly Saint Magic change. He raised his eyes and looked at the young lady who was floating above the red whirlpool. His pair of eyes seemed to be dyed red by that red glow. Indeed, Yi Qing Luo's sudden change had no signs at all, even when the divine artifact's power was depleted. Yi Qing Luo had never experienced such an intense change. Furthermore, Yi Qing Luo seemed to have changed into another person. On this side, the few of them were full of doubts. Yuhan panted heavily and groaned in pain. Yi Qing Luo had no intention to kill him directly. Instead, he used the silver threads and the gourd flame fan to torture his limbs. A bone-piercing pain assaulted him. Yuan shuddered. He suddenly understood. Yi Qing Luo was planning to cripple his limbs? Want to turn him into a cripple? Yuhan's heart tightened as her vicious gaze stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo. His eyes flashed with extreme unwillingness and anger. What? Not satisfied? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as her smile was extremely enchanting. His blood-red pupils were like a blossoming poppy. The Western continent is a place that I want to protect. These people are the people I want to protect. If you want to invade our territory, then you should bring out your strength. If you don't have enough strength, then you don't have the capital to run down to the lower realms and be arrogant and despotic. Yuhan's expression turned gloomy. His body tensed up, causing the few silver threads that were restraining him to cut deeper into his bones. The heart-wrenching pain made even a man unable to endure it as he groaned. Asterisk. Chapter 2019. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she raised her arm slightly. Her fair and slender fingers were encircled by a circle of red, profound glow. Just like that, she gently pointed towards Yuhan's direction. Containing the power of the ocean, it set off numerous airflows. Yuhan was entangled by the silver threads and had no way to avoid this attack. A demonic red glow filled Yuhan's pupils. At this moment, he clearly saw. A burst of intense, profound rays shot out from Yi Qing Luo's chest. His pupils grew bigger and bigger. That red glow, which enveloped Yi Qing Luo's entire body, was overflowing from her chest. No, not her chest, but profound jade heart. This was the reason for Yi Qing Luo's sudden change. Not giving Yuhan much time to think, the red glow, which encircled like a whirlpool, covered the sky and earth as it pressed downwards. The young lady's alluring smile was fixed in Yuhan's eyes. The red, profound glow merged with the sky full of blood rain. In front of Yuhan, it was a patch of blood color. Just as everyone thought, Yuhan was dead for sure. Lightning flashed and thunder roared in the sky, as the electric current seemed to tear a huge hole in the sky. A ray of golden, profound glow descended from the sky, directly landing on that strong whirlpool which Yi Qing Luo had set off. The golden light turned into a huge shield, enveloping Yuhan in it. The golden light and the red whirlpool blended together. The whirlpool continued to increase the strength and speed of its rotation. But there was no way to break that shield. The surrounding winds and clouds surged, as everything seemed to be covered by those two huge forces. Even the old and young of the Mu family who were supporting the barrier under the raging waves were on the verge of collapsing, unable to support the barrier. But the thought that if the barrier which they had set up was broken, all the commoners and people from the major forces within the barrier would die in these profound waves. Thinking of this, the old and young of the Mu family were still holding on to their last breath, maintaining the barrier. Black clouds filled the entire sky, as dark as night. Only that ray of golden light tore open a huge hole, as though it had opened its bloody mouth, wanting to swallow everything in the lower realm. The terrifying and valiant Qi made everyone's breathing felt extremely oppressed. Yiqing Luo opened her arms wide. The red vortex of air current lingered around her body, as if she was wearing a blazing dress, light as a feather. She narrowed her eyes slightly. Her blood-colored pupils were overflowing with color, and the golden shield in front of her faintly gave her a golden glow. The corners of her lips curled up devilishly, and there was an enchanting coldness in her eyes. Her slender fingers gripped the glowing flame, fanned tightly, and suddenly danced. An increasingly powerful, profound energy burst forth from her body. Her chest was burning like a raging fire. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The devouring flame fan opened, and the silver threads of her dyed red shot out like flowers scattered by goddess. The silver threads enveloped the golden barrier. Following that, Yiqing Luo's fingers tightened. The silver threads tightened as well. However, in the next instant, the energy shield flashed brightly. Gotcha! The sound of silver threads snapping could be heard. The silver threads wrapping around the energy shield were completely severed. When the crowd saw the silver threads snapping, they all drew in a breath of cold air as they let out a fearful voice. Yiqing Luo's slender brows raised as she stared at that energy shield with interest. She casually cut off the connection between the silver threads and the glowing flame fan. She closed the glowing flame fan. Her pink lips curled up into a faintly discernible cold arc. Since you appear to protect this ignorant person, why not directly show yourself? A clear voice leisurely rang. Chapter 2020. There were still helpers? Everyone in the array barrier immediately looked around. What capital did the dark forces have to be able to invite such powerful helpers? 2 people from the upper realm. Now, there was another person who was even more powerful than the 2 of them. West Continent was really going to be invaded? Everyone's hearts were extremely restless. Pairs of anxious and hopeful gazes looked towards Yiqing Luo. If Yiqing Luo wasn't a match for those people, then what should they do? Unknowingly, everyone had unknowingly placed all their hopes on Yiqing Luo. His gaze was placed on that girl who was only 15 years old. This was the charm of character and ability. It had nothing to do with age. It had nothing to do with gender. Yiqing Luo raised her head as she gazed at the sky, at that golden hole which was torn. Just at this moment, the air in the sky fluctuated and suddenly turned into an extremely intense whirlpool shape. Suddenly, the hole split open again. A mass of black figures floated out from the torn hole. That black mass of figures gradually got nearer. Obviously, they were separated by a distance of heaven and earth. However, the black mass of figures was approaching at an extremely fast speed. In a blink of an eye, they had already stopped at the side of the shield. The entire West Continent public square fell into a dead silence. That was, under the dazzling light, a team of 30 people could be seen. They were dressed in silver armors and formed a half encirclement as they came over in a grandiose manner. Under the bright sun, rays of light blossomed behind their backs, as though they were plated with a layer of battle armor. Disdainful stance, vast might, was displayed incisively and vividly in their actions. At the same time, an extreme pressure suddenly exploded from their bodies. That was a pressure that was born from their bones. Everyone felt as if their hearts were suddenly pressed down by a 1,000-pound boulder, and their breathing suddenly became irregular. Some of the weaker ones were even forced to crawl on the ground by this pressure. They were so shocked that their eyes were wide open, and they didn't dare to look straight at him. Terror. Other than terror, there was only terror. Who were these people? How could they have such a powerful, imposing manner? The leader's gaze swept past the public square indifferently, as though he was looking at an ant, as his gaze finally stopped on Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she exchanged glances with that person. Oh no, little girl. Old Man Song's voice suddenly entered his mind. They are the historiographers who maintain the balance of all realms and planes. Historian? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she narrowed her long and narrow eyes. The power of the divine phoenix profound heart jade is too strong. It has exceeded the balance of the lower realm. No wonder the historian of peace interfered in this matter. Old man Song continued. Yiqing Luo gave a low laugh. She raised her eyebrows and her eyes were filled with ridicule. So, old man, are you blaming me? Old man Song remained silent. It was a tacit agreement. Yiqing Luo laughed even more wantonly. Her slender fingers curled up a wisp of hair and twined it around her fingertip. Her entire person was extremely enchanting and charming. If it wasn't for me, all of you would have died here today. You should be thanking me. Old man Song didn't reply and changed the topic. That girl's body is still very weak. Before you obtain the heart-calming bead, if you want to destroy that girl, then go ahead and find trouble for her. Yiqing Luo's smile froze. His blood-red eyes flickered slightly. Asterisk. Chapter 2021. The official in charge had an upright and plain-spoken expression as he was extremely solemn. He looked at Yiqing Luo expressionlessly, as his voice was icy cold. Yiqing Luo, you're from Nirvana Realm. Your profound grade cannot exceed the burden of Nirvana Realm. Yiqing Luo lowered her head, as she didn't say a single word. The official in charge frowned, as his imposing manner and prestige unknowingly increased by a few notches. Yiqing Luo, this official is speaking to you. How dare you ignore me? The crowd looked at each other in dismay. No matter if it was the royal family army or the dark forces, they were all stunned by this 30-man team. This team, which side were they helping? The powerful, imposing manner on them, apparently. As compared to those two people from the upper realm, they were much stronger. That lass's imposing manner. Her imposing manner. Suddenly, Mu Xiao stared at Yiqing Luo, as his old face turned shocked. After he said that, he realized something, as he immediately shut his mouth, as his white brows creased tightly, as he looked towards Mu Lai. Mu Lai nodded, as his expression was extremely grave. However, even if Mu Xiao managed to stop his voice in time, there were still many people among the crowd, as they heard what Mu Xiao said. Instantly, everyone's attention shifted from those 30 people onto Yiqing Luo. This look made everyone's guts broken. That red whirlpool beneath Yiqing Luo's feet slowly dissipated. Her body slowly descended from mid-air as it landed onto the ground. Her entire body, at this instance, no longer had the initial arrogance and wanton. Like the inflated balloon was lightly pricked by someone. Instantly, it went blank. What was wrong with Yiqing Luo? Why did she suddenly lose her battle-imposing manner? If Yiqing Luo admitted defeat, then all of them wouldn't. Yiqing Luo, the official standing behind the official in charge, walked out of the team in quick steps. He raised his hand as he tugged Yiqing Luo's shoulder, as his voice was extremely dignified. Since you're so uncooperative, then based on the strange energy on your body, I'll bring you back to Balance Prison and interrogate you severely. Puffed. An unstoppable clear laughter broke the oppressive atmosphere at this moment. The young lady who had her head lowered slowly raised it. At the same time, just as the official stretched out his hand to touch her, her footsteps moved slightly. Her figure had already flashed as she was just 5 steps away from the official. The scribe's expression was sullen, unable to believe that he actually allowed a little girl from the lower realms to avoid his hand. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched in disdain. Her eyes, as she stared fixedly at the official. At this moment, the red whirlpool around her, as she stared at the official. By now, as the red whirlpool had completely disappeared, a hint of mockery appeared on her beautiful face. Her voice was clear and sweet, but the words she spat out were extremely sharp. What does the burden have to do with me? Ching, as Luo, he said. Yiqing Luo smiled again and pointed at the wolf saint technique, then turned around and pointed at the shield by the side. Isn't it the balance historian? Then, when the dark forces used the Nirvana realm to invade the western continent and take control of the Nirvana realm, why didn't you, the balance historian, show yourself? Yiqing Luo's face sunk, as her cold eyes revealed a sliver of chilliness. Yiqing Luo was fearless as she laughed in ridicule. Don't put on an awe-inspiring righteous look in front of me. You can't even settle the matter before me. So what right do you have to accuse me of destroying the balance? Asterisk. Chapter 2022. That historian's face turned steely green. Perhaps he had never seen such a rude person from the lower realms. As balance historians, they shuttled through various realms and planes. No matter who it was, they would be respectful to them. But Yiqing Luo was so daring. The historian clenched his teeth as he stretched out his hand and grabbed towards Yiqing Luo. Step down. The deep voice was calm and indifferent. It also stopped that historian's action. The head historian's expression was calm as he looked at Yiqing Luo coldly. Balance historians are not omnipotent. It's not possible to keep an eye on the changes in everything in the world at all times. He explained, moreover, even if the balance historians found out about the dark forces, they need to report it to the upper realm before they can take any further action. The upper realm already knows about this matter. What the dark forces will do next is the upper realm's matter. What we can do is to try our best to prevent the imbalance from happening. That's all. He was really pushing the blame away, cleanly. Yiqing Luo looked at them with a smile, which didn't look like a smile, as her smile became more and more ridiculing. In this way, even if the dark forces really invaded the West Continent, the upper realm didn't take any action, so they don't intend to bother about this matter. Allowing the dark forces to collude with the people from the Earth realm to control Nirvana realm, making the people of the lower realms unable to live, and then, after all these happened, using a dignified reason to do something on the surface to cover up all the ugliness? Yiqing Luo was extremely incisive. Every word, sharp and incisive, simply piercing their hearts. The historian's expression turned gloomy. Even if they were expressionless, the head historian's face also turned black. But they couldn't refute. They had to admit that what Yiqing Luo said was indeed so. The atmosphere froze for a moment. The head historian continued, everything in the world is controlled by fate. If the West Continent can't escape this calamity, then it will be the West Continent's calamity. This doesn't mean that you can violate the balance of the lower realms, using energy that doesn't belong to the lower realms to kill people. This person is not someone from the lower realms. Yiqing Luo sneered. No matter if he's from the lower realms or not, the energy you use has affected the balance of Nirvana realm. The head historian's gaze suddenly turned biting cold. Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly. They couldn't even protect the peace of the lower realm. There was no need to talk about balance. These people knew that the dark forces were colluding with the people of the land and doing things that violated the balance of the Nirvana realm. However, he still held onto her tightly and refused to let go. He didn't care about the dark faction or the Earth realm old man at all. Could it be that they did not violate the balance of the Nirvana realm? Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to waste her breath on these historians. She looked at them and said, now, I will give you two choices. First, go back to where you came from. Second, take this group of people and go back to where you came from. As she spoke, she pointed at the sacred wolf technique and the energy barrier. After a pause, she laughed even more wildly. Of course, I suggest you to choose the second option. How about this when I know the consequences of the dark forces and the few people from the upper realm who smuggled themselves into the Nirvana realm? Maybe I will take the initiative to turn myself in. The head historian took a deep look at Yiqing Luo. Then, he looked in the direction of the dark forces and the old man from the Earth realm. A chill ran down Wolf St. Law's spine. He naturally recognized the origins of these people. Asterisk. Chapter 2023. The reason why the Wolf St. Law dared to appear in the Western continent and invade the Western continent was because of the Wolf St. Law. This was because he believed that these so-called heavenly path historians would never be able to discover the existence of the dark forces. But unexpectedly, Yiqing Luo's profound energy, which had exceeded the limits of Nirvana realm, attracted the Heavenly Ways historian. Earlier, Yiqing Luo had easily entangled Yuhan in the silver thread. not giving Yuhan any chance to move or counterattack at all. Where did such a powerful force come from? Wolf's sacred law knew Yuhan's true strength too well. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so. On the other side, the Earth Realm old man's face was pale as he stared at the 30 scribes in a daze. His stomach was filled with terror. They violated the Treaty of Equilibrium, quietly descended to the lower realms, and fought with the people of the lower realms. If these historians brought them back to their own place, they would not be able to do anything to them. Even if he didn't die, he would lose half his life. Since I, the scribe, have discovered this matter, I will naturally resolve it, the chief scribe said calmly. Right now, the most important problem is your secret. Yiqing Luo's eyes flickered with a complicated look. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. His eyes were filled with arrogance and willfulness from before. She smiled and said, "No, no, no. You may have misunderstood me." She raised her hand and pressed it against her chest. A warm, profound light enveloped her palm. That light was extremely bright. The chief scribe casually glanced at it, and then a look of surprise appeared on his face. Yiqing Luo, profound grade. Sky profound first grade. Profound sky? Only a sky Xian? How could this be? The head historian recalled the scene earlier, when Yiqing Luo's flame suddenly dissipated. His expression froze. Suddenly his body moved, and he appeared right in front of Yiqing Luo. The leading scribe was extremely fast. Yiqing Luo was totally unable to react in time. His wrist was firmly grabbed by the head scribe. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased. "Sir Recorder, are you intending to use force to bully a weak lady like me?" The leading scribe remained silent. A scorching dark force emerged from his palm. In an instant, it was transmitted from Yiqing Luo's wrist into her meridians. Yiqing Luo instinctively wanted to resist. However, the hand that was gripping her wrist was so strong that she couldn't break free at all. She could only allow the chief scribe to search for the dark force in her body. It was as if he wanted to confirm exactly what level her true strength was at. The audience was silent. Everyone's gazes were anxiously concentrated on Yiqing Luo and the head historian. No one from the Dark Coalition dared to move either. The 30 scribes were simply too shocked. Right at that moment, the leading scribe's expression grew even more complicated. From the initial shock to the later shock, and finally the gaze which he shot at Yiqing Luo revealed a sliver of disbelief. "Can you let go now?" Yiqing Luo asked unhappily. The leading scribe was stunned. He was actually extremely obedient, moving his hand away. His gaze was fixed on Yiqing Luo without blinking. Yiqing Luo retracted her hand and took out a handkerchief to wipe her wrist where the head historian had grabbed it. Her long and narrow eyes were slightly raised, and her eyes were full of mockery. "Are you sure now?" "Yes, yes." The head historian replied in a daze, as though he had not regained his senses from the earlier shock. "Sir Librarian." The scribe behind him went forward with a steely green face. "Is she really a sky profound cultivator?" The head historian was still looking at Yiqing Luo, and after some time, he spat out a word, "Yes." Asterisk. Chapter 2024. How could this be possible? If she's in the sky profound grade, that power earlier. The historian was in disbelief. The leader's face sunk as he suddenly turned around and looked at the team of historians behind him. "All of you, capture all these people who sneaked into the lower realm and the people from the dark forces." The moment he said that, the crowd was in an uproar. The royal army and the commoners cheered. On the other hand, the dark forces were terrified. The 3 holy techniques and 4 pharaohs' faces were ashen as they stared at Wolf Saint Fa resentfully. That historian was stunned. "Lord Librarian, this is not possible. We obviously sense the change in her profound grade. She definitely has an unspeakable secret on her. For the peace of Nirvana realm, we must capture her back." "Shut up." The leader of the historians berated in a low voice as he carefully looked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. This glance made that historian's heart tremble. He targeted Yiqing Luo because he felt that this 15-year-old young lady was too arrogant and insolent. not giving Yi Qing Luo a taste of her own medicine. This young lady was probably even more unreasonable, but Lord Librarian's gaze and the shocked expression earlier. Apparently, Lord Librarian was afraid of this 15-year-old young lady. The historian immediately shut his mouth and didn't say another word. Instead, he followed his orders, and along with the other historians, they charged towards the elderly from the Earth realm and the Dark Forces. For a moment, the entire public square was in chaos. The people from the Dark Forces kept fleeing in all directions. But how could their speed match up to the balanced historians who came from the Heaven Dao space? The leader of the historians stood among the crowd. That pair of icy, cold, dignified gaze had been fixated on Yi Qing Luo without blinking, as though he was deep in thought about something. Wolf Saint Fa, who was standing far away, saw this scene. His face was sinister and extremely terrifying. He clenched his fists tightly as he gritted his teeth while looking at Yi Qing Luo. The young lady crossed her arms in a leisurely manner as she looked at the people from the Dark Forces being captured by the historians with a smile, which didn't look like a smile. The anger in Wolf Saint Fa's heart surged. Wolf Saint Fa. A weak and delicate voice was heard from behind him. Wolf Saint Fa turned his head around fiercely. Behind him, a disheveled woman dressed in blood-stained clothes walked over. Her entire body was covered in blood. Her meticulously dressed face was also covered in sticky blood. It looked very much like a walking zombie. Lang Shengfa frowned. Fea. The woman nodded happily, the blood on her body dripping down. Wolf Saint Technique, it's me. This lady wasn't anyone else. She was the scum whom Yi Qing Luo had thrown out earlier, Yin Zhenfei. When Yin Zhenfei saw that Wolf Saint Technique recognized her, she smiled happily. However, the Wolf Sacred Technique could only see the blood flowing down her face. Wolf Shengfa frowned in disgust and was about to retreat to avoid Yin Zhenfei's embrace. But he heard Yin Zhenfei say, "Wolf Saint Art, before we came, Father specially told me a way to escape from West Billow Square. Fei, I will take you there." The Wolf Saint Technique's footsteps halted. He suppressed the disgust in his heart and caught Yin Zhenfei, who was covered in blood. "Feier, is what you said true?" Wolf Saint Technique asked. "But we need to make use of others to attract their attention. I'm afraid we won't be able to match up to their speed." Yin Zhenfei didn't notice the tightness in Wolf Saint Technique's body as she said softly. Asterisk. Chapter 2025. In Yin Zhenfei's opinion. This time, the Yin family had joined the Dark Coalition's camp. It also meant that the Yin family and the Dark Coalition would live and die together. The Wolf Saint Technique was what she would rely on in the future. No matter what, she had to hug the Wolf Saint Technique's thigh tightly. As long as the Wolf Saint Law was still alive, they would have a chance to make a comeback. And at that time, she, who had always been by Wolf Saint Fa's side, was definitely the greatest contributor. The Wolf Saint Technique's eyes flashed as he looked at the woman in his arms. His 5 fingers moved, and in the end he still pointed to the side at the few pharaohs who were preparing to execute dark secret arts and escape. The 4 pharaohs huddled together and quickly chanted an incantation. It was obvious that the 4 of them were planning to escape from this place. The Wolf Saint Law's eyes turned cold. Just as the curse was about to form, he suddenly hugged Yin Zhenfei, his body flashing as he charged beside the 4 pharaohs. He reached out and grabbed the shoulder of one of the pharaohs and threw him in the direction of the scribe. The other 3 pharaohs had yet to react. A stream of black, mysterious yin qi shrouded down. The 3 pharaohs, Wolf Saint Art and Yin Zhenfei, disappeared in the profound yin qi. A few scribes realized the pharaoh's curse and rushed over to stop it. However, a person was thrown in front of them, smashing into them and stopping them in their tracks. By the time they had tied up the pharaoh that had been thrown out, the Wolf Saint Technique and the other 3 pharaohs had already disappeared. Lord Scribe, for have escaped, the scribe reported to the scribe. The librarian retracted his gaze from Yi Qing Luo and squinted his cold eyes. If the news of us appearing in the lower realm were to spread, and 4 of us escaped, it would cause panic in the Nirvana realm. Of all the realms, this was the lowest of the lower realms. Once the news of the heavenly way reached the ears of those ordinary people from the lower realms, it would definitely cause them to feel uneasy, especially when he knew that 4 people had escaped and had not been caught by the court historian. The people in the lower realms would all live in fear and trepidation. At that time, it would also affect the balanced development of the Nirvana realm. This subordinate knows his mistake. The scribes immediately knelt down. What's the use of knowing your sins? Hurry up and capture him, the scribe shouted. The scribes looked at each other in dismay, their faces full of difficulty. They used the dark secret technique. As for where they went, this subordinate does not know. The historiographer's expression instantly became ruthless. Just as he was about to fly into a rage, a sweet voice drifted over. I have already placed the soul-chasing powder on their bodies. As long as you follow the soul-chasing powder, you will be able to find their whereabouts within 3 days. Her voice paused for a moment before she laughed mockingly. Of course, if you can't find them within 3 days with the help of the soul-chasing powder, then there's nothing I can do. The historiographer and librarian's gazes fell onto Yi-Ching Luo. Looking at Yi-Ching Luo's face, it was filled with contempt. The scribes' faces sank. But this matter was indeed their negligence, so they couldn't refute it. In particular, in the end, they still needed to rely on this 15-year-old girl to hunt down the 4 people who had escaped. Yi Fengru, who was entangled with Nangong Firen by the side, suddenly froze when he heard Yi-Ching Luo's words. Soul-chasing powder? Yi-Ching Luo actually had the soul-chasing powder? This was the soul-chasing powder which he had once used on Yi-Ching Luo in order to track her. Only a dark medicine master was able to refine the soul-chasing powder. Yi-Ching Luo had only touched it once, and she knew how to refine it. Chapter 2026. Moreover, when did she use the soul-chasing powder on Wolf Saint Technique and the other pharaohs? Wolf Saint Technique and the rest actually didn't notice it? Just when Yi Fengru wasn't paying attention, he was forcefully pressed on the ground by Nangong Firen. Nangong Firen took out a bundle of rope from his realm ring and tied Yi Fengru up tightly. Just as he was tied up, Nangong Lin broke free from Wei Bailey's restraint and rushed to Yi Fengru's side. Brother Ru, are you all right? Yi Fengru didn't even look at her, but stared fiercely at Nangong Firen. Let me go. Have a good rest. I'll let you go after you've calmed down. Nangong Firen pressed his forehead tiredly. Pausing, he looked at Nangong Lin, whose face was filled with worry, and sighed helplessly. Ru, you should really take a good look at the person in front of you. Lin, Er's feelings for you are sincere. Look at her. You've hurt me to such a state, and she hasn't even expressed a single word of concern. She's only thinking about you. Don't let your feelings cloud your heart. Yi Fengru didn't say a word, as the viciousness on his face didn't dissipate for a long time. The situation in the public square turned around very quickly. Those few Wolf Saint techniques and those pharaohs who were thrown out were also restrained by the court officials. Apart from the dark forces, the small forces of the Nirvana realm, such as the Yin clan and the Shangwan clan, were forced to kneel on the ground by the pressure released by the scribes. Mu families old and young released the barrier. The commoners cheered excitedly as they shouted Yi-Ching Luo's name and praised the court officials. To be able to protect their own homes and survive. To them, this was the most beautiful thing. Those small families who joined the dark forces because of the temptation of the dark forces kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. None of them had expected this. In a short span of 1 hour, there was actually such an earth-shattering change. Originally, they thought that the powerful external assistance and trump card that Wolf Saint Technique had invited would allow them to obtain the final victory. It would allow them to obtain the West Continent. But this so-called external assistance couldn't even compare to a finger of Yi-Ching Luo's. Annoyance and remorse filled his heart, whereas those from Three Springs sect who admitted defeat heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, in the end, they chose to be loyal to the Three Springs sect and not Yi Fengru. Otherwise, they would really become rebels and traitors recorded in the historical records. Furthermore, it would cause the Three Springs sect to be cursed. After settling everything, the historian counted the number of people and immediately looked towards Yi-Ching Luo, these stowaways and dark forces. I will inform the upper realm and punish them." Before he could finish his words, Yiqing Luo took a step forward. The distance between the two of them closed. He was only one step away. Yiqing Luo bent over slightly and leaned close to his ear, using a voice that only the two of them could hear. "No matter what you saw on me, regarding my matters, I hope that you can keep it a secret." The scribe was startled. Yiqing Luo had already retreated a few steps, pulling a distance away from him. She smiled at him and said, "Then, I'll have to trouble Lord Historiographer to make a trip today. The common people of the West Continent will certainly remember the actions of the historiographer in their hearts." The commoners immediately agreed and expressed their gratitude. Some of them even knelt down. This was the first time the scribes had encountered such a situation. For a moment, they were all stunned on the spot. Looking at those passionate commoners, they were at a loss on what to do. The icy cold face of the scribe faintly revealed a trace of embarrassment. Asterisk. Chapter 2027. In the end, they really had no way to deal with the people's enthusiasm. They chose to escape. The historiographers used the heavenly rope to tie those people from the dark forces, as well as the elderly man from the earth realm, and Yuhan tightly. Historiographer. Yuhan was pushed and thrown towards the direction where those people from the dark forces were. Yuhan's face was steely green as she struggled with all her might. "Do you know who I belong to?" The historiographer narrowed his cold eyes as he swept a cold glance at Yuhan. As someone from the upper realm, illegally entering the earth realm is a crime of death. No matter who you belong to, as long as you violate the balance of the realm, this historiographer has the right to arrest you. "If you dare to touch me, you will regret it." Yuhan gritted her teeth. Facing such a threat, the historiographer had seen it many times, so he didn't put it to heart. After tying those people up, the historiographer's gaze swept towards those small forces who were kneeling on the ground and shivering. This gaze made those small forces feel weak all over. Patriarch Yin fell onto the ground, his face filled with fear as he begged loudly for mercy. The historiographer spoke calmly. "You are all the citizens of Nirvana Realm. Your existence has nothing to do with us. This historiographer will not interfere, so this historiographer will not bring all of you away." When the few forces heard that, they immediately raised their heads in hope, as though they didn't believe what the historiographer said was true. The next moment, the historiographer continued to speak, which made those small forces' hopes fall to the bottom again. "But you colluded with external forces, attempted to invade the West Continent, and even destroyed Nirvana Realm. This kind of thinking already has the inclination of going against the continent. Regarding this matter, this historiographer will inform the upper realm, and they will decide how to deal with it." Upper realm's decision? This matter had to be brought to the upper realm? If it was brought to the upper realm, that would mean that they had betrayed their own home, betrayed the land that they grew up in. This matter would not only spread to Nirvana Realm, but also to the various large realms of the upper realm. Patriarchian suddenly knelt down as he crawled towards Yiqing Luo's direction. "Miss Yi, Madam Yi, Fairy Yi, I beg you, save the Yin family. As long as you say it, as long as you don't haggle, that madam will definitely not fuss over it." He speedily knelt down in front of Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped down as she looked at the disheveled patriarch, Yin, who was drenched in blood, as she ridiculed. "Patriarch Yin, you asked me to save you, but have you ever thought that the daughter whom you've pampered so dearly had just helped Wolf Saint Technique to escape from this place?" She bent down and looked down at him. Her aura was haughty and arrogant. The Wolf Saint Law is the mastermind behind the invasion of the West Wave continent and colluding with the people of the land. Yin Junfei helping the Wolf Saint Law leave indicates that the West Wave continent and even the Nirvana realm will experience a crisis like today. She paused and propped herself up. Her sharp eyes swept across the people who had quietened down one by one. "This time, it's fortunate that we have the help of the historian of balance. What about the next time? Even if I'm willing to plead for you, will these commoners be willing?" "Not willing." The commoners responded in unison. They looked at the small forces that had joined the underground forces and wished they could rush forward and strangle them. How would they be willing to let them off? Patriarch Yan's face couldn't be distinguished if it was blood or tears. With a sobbing tone, he kowtowed with all his might. "Miss Yi, my Yin family's only daughter is Xiao Yi alone. You're Xiao Yi's friend. On account of Xiao Yi's face, please plead for our Yin family. I guarantee you that in future, the Yin family will absolutely only have Xiao Yi alone." Asterisk. Chapter 2028. Mentioning Yin Xiao Yi, Yiqing Luo's ridiculing smile slowly froze. Her brows creased slightly as she fixed her gaze on the hopeful look on Yin family's patriarch, falling into silence. Yin family was after all Yin Xiao Yi's family. This was Yin Xiao Yi's father, Yin Xiao Yi's kin. Although Yin Xiao Yi had always been nonchalant. In actual fact, which 15 or 16-year-old young lady didn't yearn for familial love? If it was because of this matter, Yin family only recognized Yin Xiao Yi as their daughter. If they were willing to treat Yin Xiao Yi well. For Xiao Yi, staying in Yin family was not impossible. But how much sincerity did they have? Seeing Yiqing Luo's silence, Yin family's patriarch knew that his words had moved Yiqing Luo. Immediately, he became even more attentive. Madame Yin, who was standing by the side, immediately crawled over. Both of their words were heartfelt, expressing that they would treat Yin Xiao Yi well. Looking at those Yin family's attentive looks, Yiqing Luo pursed her lips and finally compromised. She sighed softly. "How do I believe that you all sincerely want to treat Xiao Yi well? Time will prove everything. Xiao Yi is Miss Ye's friend. How would we dare to lie to you?" Madam Yin hurriedly opened her mouth. Yiqing Luo frowned. Yin family's patriarch immediately pinched Madam Yin fiercely and put on a smiling face as he flattered Yiqing Luo. "We are naturally sincere. Xiao Yi is our biological daughter, and in the past we were blindfolded by that slut Fei. Now that we know our mistake, we will definitely pamper Xiao Yi dearly." Madame Yin realized that she had said the wrong thing and hurriedly nodded. Right. Xiao Yi came out from my belly. I naturally love her dearly." She watched as the two of them fought to be the first to pour out their thoughts and love for Yin Xiao Yi. The more Yiqing Luo heard, the tighter her slender brows creased. She could tell that the Yin family was only trying to survive, which was why they were so diligent. This kind of sincerity should be more a fear. But if they could let Xiao Yi enjoy the warmth of familial love, it wasn't impossible. She pursed her lips as she raised her eyes to look at the librarian. Just as he was about to speak, a voice filled with disdain and mockery suddenly descended from the sky. "I don't need your hypocritical sincerity." Hearing this voice, everyone immediately raised their heads and looked in the direction of the sound. In the air, a huge nine-tailed fox was approaching from afar. 9 foxtails danced in the wind. A white nine-tailed fox. White holy beast nine-tailed fox. Isn't that the symbol of the Overlord? The Overlord is here? The legendary and rare Overlord had come? Everyone in the West Wave Square was excited. The scribes heard the people exclaiming, "Lord Dizun." The expressions on their faces froze. Venerable Sovereign? Could he be referring to that? Sovereign? Thinking of that person, the 30 scribes immediately lined up straight and respectfully welcomed the nine-tailed fox's arrival. The huge nine-tailed fox suddenly landed on the ground. The sparks burning in his limbs were gradually extinguished. Her 9 flamboyant fox tails swayed nonstop. Several figures jumped down from the back of the nine-tailed fox. "Jinzi, Xiao Yi, why are you guys here?" Yiqing Luo went forward to welcome them. The few people who came down were Qiao Jin, who was hugging Yin Xiao Yi by the waist, as well as Zhou Mo, Gue Wu, Ghost Doctor, and the others. Chapter 2029. Something has happened to Three Springs Sect. How can we possibly travel leisurely with those people from Heavenly Academy? Qiao Jin carried Yin Xiao Yi as he came to Yiqing Luo's side. Yin Xiao Yi's hand was looped around Qiao Jin's neck as she looked calmly at the direction of Yin family. There wasn't the slightest bit of emotion on that delicate little face. as though she was looking at a stranger. However, Yin family didn't notice Yin Xiaoyi's attitude. The minute they saw Yin Xiaoyi appear, Yin family's patriarch and Madam Yin immediately rushed over as they tried their best to put on an amiable smile as they diligently smiled at Yin Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi, father and mother know we're in the wrong. In future, we will definitely dote on you and pamper you. Madam Yin looked at Yin Xiaoyi's pale little face as her heart ached so much that she was about to cry. Look at our Xiaoyi. Why is your expression so ugly? When mother returns home later, I will personally stew chicken soup for you to nurse your body back to health. Saying that, Madam Yin stretched out her hand as she tried to touch Yin Xiaoyi's face. But Yin Xiaoyi turned her face away as she avoided Madam Yin's hand. She looked at the embarrassed Madam Yin with ridicule. I hate to eat chicken the most. As my mother, you don't even know this. On what basis do you have to talk to me sincerely? Madam Yin was stunned as her face turned slightly pale. To this daughter who had no use at all since young, Madam Yin had never tried to understand Yin Xiaoyi at all. Towards Yin Xiaoyi's likes and dislikes, she knew nothing at all. Now hearing Yin Xiaoyi's ridiculing words, other than embarrassment, Madam Yin felt even more upset and vexed. Both of them were her daughters. One was heaven's favored child, being pampered, growing up in the bright and dazzling circle. The other was a street rat, receiving cold treatment, growing up in the dark and gloomy corners. Xiaoyi, don't be willful. Yin family's patriarch didn't have Madam Yin's soft heart. The minute he heard Yin Xiaoyi's ridiculing voice, it was like a slap to their faces. Yin family's patriarch was filled with uneasiness, afraid that Yiqing Luo would dismiss the idea of saving them because of Yin Xiaoyi's attitude. Willful, Yin Xiaoyi sneered, tilted her head and laughed with extreme disdain. Patriarch Yin, I'm merely unwilling to go in the direction that you've planned. How is that willful? You. Patriarch Yin clenches fists. Looking at this rebellious and disobedient daughter, the Yin family head couldn't help but be filled with rage. He suppressed his anger and tried his best to put on a kind smile. Child, you don't even know how to call me daddy. You are the child of your parents. No matter how willful you want to be, your parents will tolerate it. Ha ha ha. Yin Xiaoyi laughed out loud without giving them any face. What a pity. I'm not interested in your tolerance. She rested her head on Xiao Jin's shoulder. She rolled up her hair and played within her hand. His entire person looked extremely lazy. Patriarch Yin, why do you have to smile at someone you hate so much just to survive? Don't you feel flustered? Yin Xiaoyi, I'm your father. When Patriarch Yin heard Yin Xiaoyi's sarcastic words, he couldn't hold it in. After yelling, he immediately quieted down and softened his voice. As a father, how can I hate my own daughter? Yin Xiaoyi was completely indifferent to the two's goodwill. She calmly swept a glance at the Yin family's group. Her smile was a little relaxed and a little willful. Yin Xiaoyi, ever since I left the Yin family, I'm no longer a member of the Yin family. The so-called father and mother, to me, are of no importance. Her voice was very soft. She spoke extremely slowly. Chapter 2030. Every single word that Yin Xiaoyi said. Patriarch Yan's expression turned darker by a shade. By the time her last word landed, Patriarch Yan's expression had already turned as black as charcoal. His entire body tensed up and the muscles on his face were trembling slightly. Apparently, he was trying his best to control his own anger. But Yin Xiaoyi seemed as though she hadn't noticed it at all. She continued to rub her hair. She continued to be lazy, as though she didn't care about anything. Suddenly, Yin Xiaoyi raised her head as her gaze turned towards the librarian's direction. Her lips curled as she gave a sweet smile. Today, while Heavenly Way's librarian is around, I have to make a clear declaration. I, Yin Xiaoyi, have never enjoyed any familial love since young. All along, I've been treated coldly, bullied, and tormented. Now, I've long passed the age where I need my parents' so-called love. So, I, Yin Xiaoyi, will leave the Yin family, and from today onwards, I have nothing to do with the Yin family. After this sentence was said, Patriarch Yin was completely enraged. Yin Xiao Yi, you're my Yin Tianming's daughter. The blood on you is the Yin family's blood. Do you want to end it cleanly? His eyes were filled with rage. Now that the Yin family is in trouble, you want to abandon the Yin family? An ungrateful person like you. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? Yin Xiao Yi couldn't be bothered with Patriarch Yin. She yawned as she lazily leaned into Qiao Jin's arms. Slut Jin, the journey is tiring. From the looks of it, there's no problem here. Let's return to the old residence first. Yin Xiao Yi. Patriarch Yin was extremely furious. I'm your biological father. This is your biological mother. You don't even acknowledge your own parents. Do you still have any humanity? He roared as he stared at Yi Qing Luo. Such a cold-blooded slut. Aren't you afraid that one day her cold-blooded will be used on you? Never. Never. Two voices spoke at the same time. Yi Qing Luo and Yin Xiao Yi's 4 eyes met, as their lips curled in tacit understanding, revealing a smile. Yin Xiao Yi immediately looked at Patriarch Yin. Not everyone is like you, not knowing what feelings are. True feelings need to be exchanged with one's sincerity. She paused and laughed self-deprecatingly. Forget it. You won't understand even if I tell you this. It's just a waste of time. No matter how the Yin family cursed at him. Yin Xiaoyi's expression didn't change at all. It was as if he had already given up on this kinship. Therefore, no matter what the Yin family did, they could not stir up even the slightest bit of emotion in her heart. She looked at Qiao Jin, carrying Yin Xiao Yi and walking towards the other end of the square. Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly. Patriarch Xiao Yin shook his head helplessly. It seems that you have hurt Xiao Yi very deeply. Since Xiao Yi doesn't need you, then what will be your ending? Pray silently that the upper realm will give you a lighter punishment. Yes, yes. How could she not need us? We are her real parents. That child is currently in a fit of anger. She only said those words out of anger. Patriarch Yan's heart tightened as he hurriedly replied. Yi Qing Luo smiled faintly as she shook her head. If you treat her sincerely, then let her off. I promise you, I will pass all of you to Xiao Yi sincerely. All of us are her closest kin. Saying that, Yi Qing Luo didn't look at the Yin family anymore. Instead, she turned around and looked at the librarian. I shall not disturb the various librarians. The librarian looked at Yi Qing Luo for some time, as he hesitated to ask the words that were at the tip of his tongue. Chapter 2031. 30 people, as awe-inspiring as when they came. He led the people from the Dark Coalition who were tied up into a ball and was about to tear the hole in the sky. Historiographer's footsteps stopped abruptly. The 29 historiographers behind him also stopped in their tracks. A sudden clap of thunder resounded in the sky. In a split second, the entire Westlake Square was plunged into a burst of lightning and thunder. The atmosphere was extremely treacherous and terrifying. Historiographer squinted his eyes as he raised his eyes to look at the flickering lightning in the sky. That usually expressionless face revealed a trace of astonishment. Yi Qing Luo's heart thumped. An ominous premonition arose spontaneously. Indeed, this matter was not that easy to solve. As expected, amidst the lightning, a team of about 100 people gradually appeared, dressed in black, dazzling armor. Their imposing manner was overbearing. The leader was a handsome man dressed in a brocade robe. The two teams collided face to face. Historiographer frowned. Why does Godless Island's young island master have the time to come to Nirvana Realm to join in the fun? The man who was addressed as young island master smiled lightly. I'll not beat around the bush. Today I'm here to ask for 2 people from Historiographer. Historiographer's expression congealed as he seemed to have guessed who the people young island master wanted to ask for were. These 2 people are my father's close friends. Today I'm here on my father's request to ask for them. Historiographer should not give Godless Island face right. Young Island Master smiled like a spring breeze. His voice was extremely gentle, but the meaning in his words had already revealed a blatant threat. If Historiographer refused to hand them over to young Island Master, which meant that Historiographer had offended the entire Godless Island. Although compared to the upper realm or heavenly way, Godless Island was not considered as a large force. Moreover, Godless Island was located in Nirvana realm. No matter what, to the people from the upper realm, this was just a force from the lower realm. But Godless Island was different, just like the Imperial Palace in Nirvana realm. They were all legendary existences. Nirvana realm's number one evil force, number one island. A force that was comparable to the Imperial Palace. Even the historians who came from the heavenly law had to show some respect to the Godless Island when they were facing it. Didn't the people of Godless Island not care about worldly affairs? Why did the young island master personally make a move this time? These two people were from the Earth domain. Since when did the Godless Island have such a close relationship with the people from the Earth domain? The more he thought about it, the more terrifying it was. The scribe stopped himself from guessing. To him, all he had to do was to eliminate the imbalances in all planes and planes. That was enough. He did not want to participate in the open and covert struggles between the major forces. Since the young island lord has come personally to ask for him, I naturally have no reason to refuse. The scribe keeper regained his composure, his expression devoid of emotion. The young island master nodded in satisfaction. The corner of his mouth had yet to curl up. He heard the librarian continuing, but the two people whom young island lord wants are handed over to me by Miss Yiqing Luo. If young island lord really wants to take these two people away, why not have a good discussion with Miss Yi? The young island master's smile froze at the corner of his lips. This damned old fox. He didn't want to offend either side, so he chose this compromise method. Looking at the young island master's gloomy expression, the librarian shrugged helplessly. I am only the historiographer to balance the balance. Whether to bring them away or to leave them behind is naturally up to the both of you. As he spoke, he looked at the sky again. We don't have much time. If we don't get any results, I'll take them away first. After you're done negotiating, you can come to the heavenly law realm and find me to get them back. Asterisk. Chapter 2032. The young island master knew that it was useless to force the historiographer. It might even affect the peace between the two sides. He suppressed the rage in his heart and turned his gaze towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Ever since young island master appeared, Yiqing Luo had been sizing him up. She saw him looking at her. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she revealed a smirk of ridicule. Godless Island. Should I call you eldest young master, Shi Shanglan Shi, or young island lord? Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, young island master's eyes revealed an appreciative smile. He laughed softly. Qing Luo is indeed intelligent to recognize me just like that. His smile was as gentle as when he was Shi Shanglan. Those few people behind Yiqing Luo who had interacted with Shi Shanglan before were all stunned. The young island master in front of him. His appearance and aura were completely different from Shi Shanglan. But when this smile appeared, he was stunned. This was indeed Shi Shanglan. So, Shi Shanglan's identity was fake. This person was the young island master of Godless Island. Where's the real Shi Shanglan? What did you do to him? Yin Shaoyi gripped Xiao Jin's robes tightly as she questioned coldly. The young island master raised his eyebrows and smiled. Hey, isn't this my fiancée, Shaoyi? No wonder you're Qing Luo's good sister. Even in the godless array, you were poisoned by our Godless Island's poison, and you're still alive. He clicked his tongue. This young patriarch really wants to see, where's your limit, Qing Luo? I think you might not have this chance in this lifetime. Yiqing Luo's fingers clenched tightly. The poison in Yin Shaoyi's body was indeed Godless Island's poison. The young island master laughed heartily. Yin Shaoyi spoke again. Let me ask you, where is Shi Shanglan? Her voice trembled a little. His voice was filled with anger. The young island master's mocking gaze swept towards Xiao Jin, who was carrying Yin Shaoyi, as he laughed heartily. What? Do you miss your weak and useless fiancé? You're talking about another man in front of your lover. Aren't you afraid that he'll be jealous? Yin Shaoyi's face darkened. She emphasized every word. Where is Shi Shanglan? This time, he spat out the words with great force. Her throat tickled, and she coughed violently. The young island lord laughed mockingly and said, This young lord needs his identity, so he naturally can't live in this world. However, that brat is also infatuated with you. He clearly remembers all the memories he had with you, and he wholeheartedly wants to marry you into the Shi clan in the future. He shook his head and clicked his tongue. Sigh, what a pity for that infatuated boy. In the end, his woman was stolen by another man, and he even lost his life. Yin Xiaoyi's coughing became increasingly violent. She gripped Xiao Jin's sleeves tightly, her chest heaving up and down. It was obvious that he was furious. Xiao Jin comforted her gently. Young Island Lord, are you trying to make things difficult for us, or are you trying to get Yuhan and that old man to leave? Yiqing Luo raised her voice, overshadowing the sound of their confrontation. She leisurely walked toward the young island master. Her fiery red dress looked even more enchanting under the sky full of blood. However, just based on what you said just now, I say that you can forget about taking away those two people who snuck into the lower realms and violated the balance of the lower realms. She lifted her lower jaw slightly. Her tone was extremely arrogant. The young island master's face sunk. Yiqing Luo, you don't want Yin Xiaoyi's antidote? Yiqing Luo's flamboyant smile froze. After some time, she pursed her pink lips tightly. How can I believe that what you've given is the real antidote? Chapter 2033. Yiqing Luo's face sunk slightly, unable to refute. This is the consequence of valuing relationships. The young island master snorted disdainfully and said disdainfully, it's because you value relationships too much that you have your hands and feet tied and are easily threatened by others. For such feelings, the young island master expressed that he would absolutely not be tainted by such feelings that would prevent him from succeeding. He smiled. If you want to save Yin Xiaoyi, then let the historian release those two people. Qing Luo, don't agree to him. Yin Xiaoyi suppressed her coughing voice. He's not that kind-hearted. The poison in my body is almost gone. As long as I rest for a few days, I will be able to recover. If you hand over those two people from the Earth Domain to Godless Island, you will be releasing a tiger back into the mountains. She believed in the ghost doctor's medical skills. If Yin Xiaoyi's poison was nurtured properly, there was at least an 80% chance that it could be completely cleared. But did Yin Xiaoyi really have a chance to recuperate? Many things had happened during the Academy Exchange Conference. Her devil class, the world group, its set reputation had already spread far and wide in Nirvana realm. After that, he would go to the class of gods for training. Or perhaps, countless troubles were lurking in the shadows. These troubles could very possibly worsen Yin Xiaoyi's injuries. Better safe than sorry. Yiqing Luo couldn't risk her own brothers. Gentlemen, we don't have much time left. If we haven't come to a conclusion, we'll take our leave first. The Scrivener could feel the turbulence in the air. He decisively decided to flee and avoid the confrontation between the two of them. That was the correct choice. Haven't you decided yet? The young island master curled his lips lightly. This is your only chance. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips. On her beautiful face, there was light flowing in her eyes. Ripples appeared in her eyes, making it hard for others to see through her thoughts. The young island master was not anxious. He knew that for Yin Xiaoyi's sake, Yiqing Luo would definitely agree to his terms. On one side were two insignificant people from the land domain. On the other side was her good sister. Yiqing Luo would definitely choose her good sister. Yiqing Luo hesitated for a moment before she slowly opened her mouth. He had just spat out a word. The expression on the young island master's face was one of pride and confidence. Yiqing Luo was about to spit out the next word. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo felt as though her chest was brushed by something icy cold. Her throat had actually lost its voice in this instant. What was going on? Who was sneaking up on her? Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows vigilantly as she released her perception and judged the direction of that icy cold feeling. She only had time to see a purple figure flash by. When he looked again, he saw a dense mass of commoners. That purple figure seemed to be just an illusion. But Yiqing Luo was very clear. That was definitely not an illusion. She searched for any memory of this figure in her mind. But after thinking about it for a long time, she couldn't find any memories. The only thing he could be sure of was, based on the figure's petite figure, it was definitely a woman. Women, to be able to seal her voice without her noticing. When did the Western continent have such a character? Furthermore, that woman's motive seemed to be to stop her from speaking. After sealing her voice, that woman hurriedly left. Yi Qing Luo, what tricks are you trying to play again? The young island master, who hadn't received a reply from Yi Qing Luo, started to get anxious. Asterisk. Chapter 2034. Yi Qing Luo regained her senses from her deep thoughts as she raised her eyes to look at young island master. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Her thin eyebrows were tightly knitted together as she mobilized her profound heart jade to break through the power that had sealed her voice. However, he had forcefully used the power of the profound jade heart and activated the power of the divine tool twice. The profound heart jade had already exceeded its limit. She couldn't break through that power at all. Moreover, she could clearly feel that the pendant which Dmo Xian had given her to suppress the profound heart jade was also showing faint signs of cracking. She couldn't be willful anymore. Otherwise, once her profound jade heart loses its restriction, she would be swallowed by the profound jade heart. She steadied her mind and dismissed the idea of breaking through that force. Young Island Master's expression darkened. I thought you were a person who valued relationships and loyalty. Since you don't want to save Yin Xiao Yi, then this young master will tell you the truth. For this kind of poison, if there's no antidote within 5 days, Yin Xiao, you will turn into a puddle of corpse water. Yi Qing Luo's pupils contracted abruptly. However, the expression on her face remained indifferent. She did not speak. The young island master's mental state exploded. Threats and carrots were all unable to make Yi Qing Luo relent. If he still couldn't complete this task, his father would definitely give up on him. This was his last chance. No matter what, he had to keep his position as the young island master. Young island master thought that Yi Qing Luo's silence was because she intentionally put on a high profile, not willing to bother with him. But Yin Xiao Yi and the others could tell that something was wrong with Yi Qing Luo. Yin Xiao Yi tugged at Xiao Jin's sleeve. Xiao Jin carried Yin Xiao Yi as he walked towards Yi Qing Luo. Yin Xiao Yi said by the side, "You don't need to threaten us. You've spent so much effort to get close to us. Don't you know that Qing Luo's master is the ghost doctor who is known as Ghost Hand Doctor?" The young island lord scoffed. If the ghost doctor could cure the poison in your body, you wouldn't be unable to walk right now. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Jin's hand suddenly froze. He hugged Yin Xiao Yi's slender waist tightly. The calm expression on his face no longer existed. Xiao Yi, the ghost doctor, he doesn't have the antidote? Xiao Jin lowered his voice. Yin Xiao Yi's gaze wavered slightly. Haven't I already got much better? Don't you believe in the ghost doctor's medical skills? Xiao Yi. Xiao Jin's tone became heavier as he tightened his grip. What he said, is it true? 5 days. Only 5 days. Yin Xiao Yi lowered her eyes. Xiao Jin's heart thumped. Yi Qing Luo's heart thumped hard. Clearly, the young island master's words were all true. Yin Xiao Yi herself knew that the remaining poison in her body had not been expelled. The ghost doctor had also clearly told her about the 5-day deadline. The ghost doctor had also promised her that she would try to think of a solution within 5 days. Qing Luo, those two people are unimportant if she's Shang. He is willing to use the antidote to exchange, I think. I think it's possible. Xiao Jin immediately looked towards Yi Qing Luo. From Yin Xiao Yi's expression, he could tell. The young island lord's words were all true. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips tightly as her charming eyes were suffused with a biting cold glint. When Xiao Jin saw that she did not speak, he became even more anxious in his heart. Just as he was about to open his mouth, Yin Xiao Yi grabbed him. Qing Luo seems to have lost her voice. Xiao Jin was stunned. It seemed that indeed, ever since Yi Qing Luo was about to answer the young island lord, she had not said a single word. Xiao Jin stopped his mouth as his eyes were filled with anxiety and couldn't conceal his worry. Yi Ching Luo shook her head at him. Young Island Lord, Miss Yi, we really cannot stay on in Nirvana realm any longer. Librarian saw the current atmosphere and didn't want to get involved in this dispute. Asterisk. Chapter 2035. If they stayed in the lower realm for too long, it would affect the balance of the lower realm. It would also affect the balance of the lower realm, saying that the 30 of them had no intention to stay any longer. Historiographer's palm flipped, and that hole in the sky suddenly appeared with a golden light. It descended from the sky, projecting a golden long bridge. Historiographer led his men and stepped onto the long bridge. Historiographer. Young Island Master's expression congealed as he called out anxiously, while shooting a glance at the islanders on Godless Island. Immediately, over 100 people stood in front of the court scribes, blocking their path. That golden long bridge's path was blocked. Historiographer's face sunk. What does young Island Master mean? Historiographer. Today, I'm under my father's orders to bring these two people back to Godless Island. If historiographer is unwilling to give Godless Island this face, then I can only offend you. Young Island Master couldn't care so much anymore. As long as he could complete the task which his father had said, even if he had to use force, he wouldn't hesitate. Young Island Master, you better understand the difference between your Godless Island and the Heavenly Tao realm. If you want to use force, I have the right to detain you and bring you to the Heavenly Tao realm for punishment according to the laws of the Heavenly Tao for disrupting the work of the historian. The historiographer frowned. Young Island Master had no intention to give in. I absolutely have no intention to become enemies with historiographer. If it wasn't for Yi Ching Luo's insistence, I wouldn't treat historiographer in this way. Instead, he pushed his current actions onto Yi Ching Luo. If Yi Ching Luo could speak now, she would definitely ridicule young Island Master. Damn it, you can't shit but blame the latrine pit? Historiographer wasn't an idiot. Hearing young Island Master's self-righteous words, his dissatisfaction towards young Island Master rose by another level. His face sunk as he sneered. Young Island Master, I would like to see how you're going to stop me. Just as he finished his words, a powerful wave of air surged around the historiographer. Profound energy surged and profound chi intertwined. In a split second, the 100 over people who were blocking in front of him were all shaken by this strong energy as they all retreated a few steps. The 100 people stood close together. Once someone lost his footing, he crashed into countless people one after another. On the blood-stained ground, dozens of people collapsed. The young Island Master's brocade robe fluttered in the strong wind. Looks like the librarian insists on helping Yi Ching Luo. Then don't blame this junior for being impolite. Not to be outdone, he also shot out blazing profound energy that rolled like tide, contending against the historiographer. When a young Island Master released his profound energy, he didn't even have the time to collide with the clerk. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew past. He easily cut off the two forces that were about to collide. Wherever the hurricane went, whirlpools were set off. Regardless of whether it was the profound chi released by the young Island Master or the keeper of the temple. Under the hurricane, it dissipated completely in an instant. The hurricane subsided. It was quiet all around. It was as if nothing had happened. The eyes of the custodian and the young Island Master were filled with shock. He seemed to be unable to understand where exactly did the power that had interrupted their profound energy come from. The two of them were in shock. Whereas on the other side, Yi Ching Luo's eyes shone brightly. Her devastatingly beautiful face suddenly became dazzling. Her lips curled upwards as she couldn't stop smiling. Ah Xian! A sweet voice was heard from her mouth. She was stunned as she clutched her throat. She could now make a sound again? Was it because Ah Xian was here? Asterisk. Chapter 2036. When the crowd heard Yi Ching Luo's voice, their hearts trembled. Ah Xian? Who was the person whom Yi Ching Luo was calling for? Whereas Xiao Jin, Yin Xiao, Yi, and the others, when they heard Yi Ching Luo's voice, they all revealed an overjoyed expression. Yiqing Luo's face was already smiling, like the girl next door, as she sprinted forward. Young Isla Master's face instantly turned pale like paper. His body was shaking like a sieve. Others didn't know who Yiqing Luo was calling for. He knew, and he knew it clearer than anyone else. The historian's attention was also attracted by Yiqing Luo's joyful call. The crowd looked towards the direction where Yiqing Luo sprinted towards. They only saw the golden light shining on the horizon, as a tall figure appeared against the light. In the exchange of light and shadow, he looked especially devilishly charming, like a deity descending to earth. Every inch closer he got, the entire public square's atmosphere became more shocked. Slowly, that figure got nearer. A billowing purple robe hung loosely on his body. Even his flying black hair was scattered over his shoulders, showing a lazy look. His sleeves were wide, like the rolling clouds. His imposing manner was extremely majestic. Just looking at him like that, the crowd had a feeling of kneeling down in submission, as though he was born to be an almighty deity. The red-robed young lady got closer to him. The young lady's alluring face bloomed into a radiant smile. Her eyes were filled with sweetness and happiness. She threw herself into the man's broad embrace. He lowered his eyes, gazing at the young lady in his arms, as his thin lips twitched slightly, smiling. In a split second, everything on heaven and earth seemed to have lost all its luster. The golden light on the horizon was not as dazzling as this smile of his. His black eyes were gleaming, with a devilish and unrestrained aura, his narrow peach blossom eyes rippling with rippling luster. The smile on the corners of his lips softened his cold and stiff aura. A man and a woman, hugging each other. It was as beautiful as a beautiful painting. That kind of compatibility made one yearn for it. This dog food was so F***ing exciting. The Overlord. It's the Overlord. The Overlord is here. The public square instantly went into an uproar. The commoners spontaneously knelt onto the ground. When the various powerhouses people saw DMO Xian, they uniformly knelt down. They could not hide the fear and excitement in their hearts. Of course, the most terrifying thing was it was none other than the dark forces and the small forces that had joined the dark forces. Anyone with eyes could see it. What kind of relationship did the Overlord and Yiqing Luo have? However, after the shock and excitement passed, those small forces were still hoping to get lucky. He asked the dark forces what they had said earlier. Isn't there an internal strife in the Imperial Palace? I heard that His Excellency Di Zun has been busy dealing with the changes in the Imperial Palace these past few days. Why would he come to the West Continent? This man is a fake Overlord. How could the real Lord Di Zun appear in the West Continent? That's right. The Imperial Palace was in an uproar. Miss Win Chime, the granddaughter of the Imperial Palace's grandmother, took her grandmother and dispersed most of the Imperial Palace's forces. The matter of the Arch Palace had yet to be resolved. Why would he come here? Those small forces kept denying the authenticity of this man. However, regardless of whether it was the royal army or the commoners, they all had eyes all right. It wasn't something that those small forces would believe just by casually saying it out. Indeed, it wasn't difficult to disguise as the Overlord and imitate the Overlord's appearance. But, Chapter 2037. Speaking of which, the Imperial Palace had such a huge incident, and the Overlord had specially come over. Among the crowd, there were many young ladies and women. After hearing those few small powerhouses' words, they immediately cupped their faces as their hearts rippled with love. Nothing is more important than my own wife in this world. A peerless man. Such a man. Why can't I meet him? The subtext was, such a good man. It wouldn't be too much even if you gave me a dozen. There were many present who didn't know about the relationship between Yiqing Luo and DMO Xian. But she had never thought that DMO Xian would really pamper Yiqing Luo in the palm of his hand. At this moment, DMO Xian's appearance was obviously to support Yiqing Luo, who was the Overlord, Nirvana Realm's legend, a heaven-defying existence that surpassed all realms. Overlord, Overlord, Godless Island, and the historians all knelt down, no matter how unwilling young Island Master was. But facing Dmo Xian, he had to kneel down. His heart was pounding violently, as though it was going to jump out from his throat. He knew how much Dmo Xian doted on Yiqing Luo. For today, to let the Wolf Saint technique successfully occupy the West Continent, he specially made Feng Ling join hands with the Imperial Palace's granny to cause a huge commotion in the Imperial Palace, so that Dmo Xian couldn't be separated to intervene in the West Continent's matters. But Dmo Xian actually came. He didn't receive any news from Feng Ling, which meant that the crisis in the Imperial Palace had not been resolved. Dmo Xian abandoned the Imperial Palace and rushed over to the West Continent. No matter how he calculated, he didn't expect. Yiqing Luo actually occupied such an important position in Dmo Xian's heart. He didn't even care about the Imperial Palace's downfall. Shouldn't a man place his own status as the most important? Love affairs were just a spice to life when life was boring. As a dignified Dizun, he regarded love as the most important thing in the world. He didn't know if he should laugh at Dmo Xian's stupidity. He should admire Dmo Xian's confidence. Yiqing Luo raised her head as her red robe fluttered in the wind. Her fine black hair fluttered in the wind, revealing her stunning looks. Ah Xian, haven't you settled the Imperial Palace's matter? Yiqing Luo heard the surrounding discussions and understood that those small-sized powerhouses' words weren't fake. She lowered her eyelashes. I'm sorry, I pushed Feng Ling too hard. If it weren't for the fact that she was working together with the headquarters and want to put a bounty on Wind Chime's head, with Feng Ling's love for Dmo Xian, Feng Ling would never do anything to harm Dmo Xian or the Imperial Palace. The Imperial Palace was Dmo Xian's blood and sweat. The Imperial Palace's granny was also considered as Dmo Xian's elder. Because of her, it caused the destruction of Dmo Xian's Imperial Palace, and also caused the only relationship between Dmo Xian and the Imperial Palace's granny to be completely severed. Silly Luo, what are you apologizing for? Dmo Xian's slender fingers poked Yiqing Luo's forehead. The Imperial Palace is merely a toy that I use to kill time when I'm bored. If I want to, I can lead the remaining disciples in the Imperial Palace to casually establish a second Imperial Palace, which is as easy as flipping my palm. As for Feng Ling, she would bring away a large portion of the Imperial Palace's forces, which is within my expectations. Yiqing Luo buried her head in his arms. Why didn't you stop her? Chapter 2038. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips tightly. Her little head rubbed against Dmo Xian's arms. The expression on Dmo Xian's face turned gentler. Seeing this, the surrounding girls all held their cheeks and shrieked incessantly. Dmo Xian patted Yiqing Luo's head lightly as he looked at the crowd, kneeling on the ground as his voice regained its indifference. Get up. The crowd stood up shakily. Dmo Xian's gaze lightly swept past Librarian as he pretended to inadvertently glance at the dark forces who were tied up one after another. What's the matter with Librarian, sir? These people who had violated the lower realms order are still here? Do you think that this matter hasn't been blown out of proportion? Librarian Sir felt a chill down his spine as his forehead was filled with cold sweat as he trembled and hung his head down. Overlord, please forgive me. It's Godless Island's young island master who wants to demand for people from me. These people have violated the lower realm's balance, so I naturally can't agree to it. So young island master. So he fought with me, which is why it has been stagnated till now. The librarian decisively pushed all the blame onto the young island master. He didn't mention that he was afraid of Godless Island's power, so he pushed young island master to Yiqing Luo. If he had known earlier that Yiqing Luo and Overlord had such a relationship, what face did he have to give Godless Island? No matter how much face he had, he was no match for the Overlord. Oh, Dmo Xian's brows rose as he looked at young island master with a smile, which didn't look like a smile. When did Godless Island become so powerful? You even dare to fight with Heavenly Ways Librarian? Young Island Master was swept by his gaze. His entire body instantly turned soft. His legs turned soft as he knelt onto the ground again. Overlord, I just... His stuttering voice was unable to spit out any further words. TSK, I remember that young Island Master doesn't care about me. Why are you so afraid? DMO Xian hugged Yiqing Luo as he slowly walked towards young Island Master. That pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes were extremely dazzling. However, when the two of them met, they couldn't help but laugh. He felt a chill in his heart. The young Island Master trembled, his face pale. I wouldn't dare to look down on Dizun. Using Lil Luo Er's maiden family to lure Lil Luo Er and this lord into the soulless formation, attempting to use the soulless formation to kill this lord and Lil Luo Er in the formation. Isn't this the young Island Master's doing? Dmo Xian gave a light smile. His thin, rosy red lips curved into a devilish, cold arc. The young Island Master shook his head in horror. Lord Overlord, please spare my life. Lord Overlord, please spare my life. How arrogant had he been before? There were so many cowards now. At that time, Wuxia had specially advised him and talked about his confidence. Only now did he understand. He had underestimated DMO Xian's ability. When they really face to face, only then did he truly understand how far the gap between him and the Overlord was. Do you still remember what I said last time? DMO Xian's fingers gently caressed Yiqing Luo's fine hair, but when he looked towards young Island Master, his voice was as though it was wrapped in frost. The young Island Lord felt a chill down his spine. He remembered. Of course he remembered. At that time, when DMO Xian led a group of people to break the soulless formation, he said that sentence to him, "Convey this to your Island Master. Regarding today's matter, I will personally pay a visit to discuss with Island Master in detail." It was just a simple sentence, but it made him become a nightmare in the following nights, pestering him in his dreams. And it was precisely because of this time round when he saw DMO Xian's appearance. Young Island Master's fear towards DMO Xian rose to the peak. DMO Xian met with young Island Master's terrified eyes, like a whirlpool, sucking young Island Master into a deep pool. Asterisk. Chapter 2039. Peed? Godless Island's young Island Master was so scared that he peed. Ha ha, look at his clothes, ha. A sudden laughter came from the crowd. Following that, numerous people looked over. Young Island Master was dressed in a dark brocade robe, and one could clearly see that there was an obvious watermark on his buttocks. Apparently, he was scared by DMO Xian and peed his pants. The tense atmosphere also collapsed at this moment. Everyone held their bellies and laughed. Young Island Master held his buttocks as his face turned green and white. The people laughed at him. The royal army also laughed at him. Everyone around him was laughing at him. His face was ashen as he angrily rebuked the godless Islanders. What are you waiting for? Take off your clothes. The Islanders of the godless island looked embarrassed, angry, and annoyed. Young Island Master represented the entire godless island. But young Island Master was in the lowly lower realm. In front of so many lowly lower realm people, he did such a powerless and disgraced godless island. They all felt like their faces were on fire, extremely embarrassed. Hearing young Island Master using a commanding tone to rebuke them, the shame in the bottom of the islanders' hearts welled up. Young Island Master, Godless Island's reputation has been swept away because of you, and you still don't know it? Today's matter, I will definitely report it to Island Master in full detail. He roared as he untied his outer robe and threw it at young Island Master. The clothes that reeked of a man's sweat covered his face. The coarse cloth cut the skin on his face. He was infuriated as he tugged the robe down and stared at that islander furiously, just as he was about to reprimand. But he heard a light and hoarse voice. "Young Island Master, I don't have the leisure to waste time on you. If you know what's good for you, hand over the antidote of Lil Luo Er's maiden family. Otherwise, I don't mind bringing Lil Luo up to Godless Island to ask for the antidote myself." Young Island Master's body shook violently. Both his hands unconsciously tightened the coarse cloth robe in his hands. Inexplicably, he recalled the time when he exchanged glances with Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian's eyes were deep like a whirlpool, as if he wanted to absorb the feeling of his soul. The young island master immediately wrapped the coarse robe around his waist, covering his embarrassing part. Since His Majesty asked for the antidote personally, I will naturally give it to him. But, Lord Dizun, to tell you the truth, those two people in the land domain are not the people that Godless Island wants to take them away. It's the man called Yuhan. He is. Young Island Master looked to the left, and right as he got closer to Dmo Xian and lowered his voice, he's from God Realm. Divine Realm? Upon hearing these two words, Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. Her eyelashes trembled, and the light in her eyes rippled. The upper realm was the highest level of all the planes and realms. They were divided into the earth realm, the heaven realm, and the God realm. The God world was the most exalted and noble of all realms. This Yuhan came from the divine world. Even Dmo Xian frowned because of the two words divine realm. Dmo Xian remained silent. The young island master's worried heart also relaxed. He knew that as long as the God realm was mentioned, even if it was someone as exalted as an overlord, he had to give face to the God realm. An overlord status was indeed enough to have a foothold in the earth domain or heaven realm. But in the God realm, an overlord was nothing. No matter what, an overlord had to give face to the God realm. Asterisk. Chapter 2040. The silence lasted for as long as 15 minutes. Finally, Dmo Xian opened his mouth. People from the God realm dare to intervene in the matters of the lower realm. Dmo Xian's voice was cold. How daring. His rosy lips curled into a cool arc as he looked at the historiographer. I wonder, according to the laws of heaven, what kind of punishment will be given for such a crime. The historiographer originally didn't hear what young island master whispered to the overlord, but now he heard the overlord mentioning the two words God realm. His heart skipped a beat and almost jumped out of his throat. God realm? And it even involved the God realm? People from the God realm meddled in the matters of the lower realm. This crime was far more serious than people from the earth realm sneaking into the lower realm. But people from the God realm, even their balanced historiographer didn't dare to offend them easily. But Dmo Xian threw the problem to him. The historiographer instantly felt a headache coming on. How could an innocent person like him be implicated in the dispute between the two forces? If he had known that the imbalance in the lower realm, which he sensed in the heaven realm, was caused by Yiqing Luo, who had a close relationship with the overlord, he would never intervene in this matter, even if he was beaten to death. Now he was regretting so much, but he still had to bite the bullet, and said in a trembling voice, "What the overlord said is right. According to the laws of heaven, people from the God realm who sneak into the lower realm will have to suffer the calamity of 81 bolts of heavenly thunder and be thrown into the heaven prison for 100 years. Yuhan's face instantly turned as white as paper. He could no longer maintain his usual frosty look. To suffer the calamity of 81 bolts of heavenly thunder and be thrown into the heaven prison without any treatment. Wasn't this forcing him to his death? Historiographer. Young island master stared angrily at the historiographer. The historiographer immediately looked away. What? Young island master wants to threaten the historiographer to defy the laws of heaven in front of me. Dmo Xian glanced at young island master with a smile, yet not a smile. Young island master felt a chill down his spine as he lowered his head. I don't dare. Then shut up and do everything according to the rules. Dmo Xian's narrow peach blossom eyes flashed past a contemptuous sneer. Immediately, he lowered his eyes. Like flowers blooming in spring, it was extremely gentle and warm. He gave a slight smile as he caressed Yiqing Luo's fine black hair, speaking in a gentle voice. Lil Luo, I must be tired. Let's go back and rest. Yiqing Luo raised her head and met his tender eyes. Her heart was as sweet as if it had been irrigated by sugar water. The man who had abandoned the palace to support her. No matter how one looked at him, he was handsome. This was her man. Yiqing Luo opened up her arms and wrapped them tightly around his sturdy waist. Dmo Xian's hand that was caressing her hair was gentle. However, his face regained its indifference and coldness. Historiographer, you have been in the lower realm for too long. Now, lead your brothers back to the heavenly law realm. If the God realm wants to take those two people away, just let them come and find me. I'll take responsibility for whatever happens. Yes, your majesty. The scribe nodded repeatedly and impatiently led the other scribes away. He didn't give the young island master any chance to stop him. The golden light gradually disappeared into the horizon. The crack in the sky also returned to normal. Young island master's body went limp as he fell heavily onto the ground. Finished. Everything was finished. He couldn't get Yuhan back. Today he had lost such a huge face. Everything he had was completely ruined. Young island master antidote. DMO Xian narrowed his peach blossom eyes as he looked at the man whose face was filled with despair as he spoke coldly. Asterisk. Chapter 2041. Young Island Lord. No, he who had failed the mission had already lost his right to be the young Island Lord. He couldn't even be compared to the ordinary islanders of Godless Island. Now he should be called Dao Yegan. Hearing DMO Xian's warning, Dao Yegan gave a low laugh. His face was filled with despair as his eyes were empty and lifeless, revealing a sliver of insanity. Antidote. If I can't bring the two of them away, I will absolutely not hand over the antidote. Dao Yegan tilted his head as he pointed towards Yin Xiaoyi's direction and laughed. Anyway, if I can't bring the two of them away, I will absolutely not be able to live. Why not? Let my fiancé die together with me. As he said that, he couldn't help but burst out laughing. Bam! DMO Xian's sleeves fluttered and the purple glow was extremely dazzling. Dao Yegan's body was sent flying backward. His tall body landed heavily on the broken stones and blood. He gave a dull moan as he sprawled on the ground, too lazy to climb up. Instead, he coughed while laughing maniacally. Kill me. DMO Xian, aren't you very powerful? Then kill me. Ha ha ha. It was obvious that Dao Yegan was determined to die. DMO Xian's brows creased slightly as he gazed at Dao Yegan. His slender fingers lifted up slightly as a piercing ray spread out from his fingertips. Xian, he wants to die, but I don't want him to die. Yiqing Luo hugged DMO Xian's arm, suppressing his murderous intent. The young lady's sweet voice was clear and pleasant to the ears. He has a good idea. If you kill him, not only will he gain a good reputation, he can also erase the embarrassing incident of him peeing in his pants when he saw you earlier. By then, even if there's a new young island lord, everyone in Godless Island will only say, look, our previous young island lord, because of Godless Island Lord's orders, he died in the hands of the Overlord. This is the young island lord who sacrificed his life for Godless Island. The other young island lords will only live under his halo in future. Lying on the ground, Dao Yegan, who was laughing maniacally, suddenly stopped. Having his thoughts exposed, he stared blankly at Yiqing Luo, as though he couldn't understand why Yiqing Luo was able to guess his plans so thoroughly. Was his performance that obvious? Rather than letting him die with a good name, it's better to let your name spread far and wide. Yiqing Luo scoffed softly as her brows curved, extremely crafty. Since he values his reputation so much, then let's start from his reputation. She wrapped her arms around DMO Xian's neck and stuffed her head in his arms as she beamed and said, Xian, since we're already here, why don't we bring young Island Master to Godless Island? DMO Xian's eyes were filled with adoration. He helplessly looked at the girl in his arms and sighed softly, but nodded his head in a doting manner. Okay. At this point, Dao Yegan could no longer laugh. Bring him to Godless Island? Wouldn't his reputation be completely ruined? Even today, in the mortal world, being scared by a venerable sovereign would also become a laughingstock on the Godless Island. No, absolutely not like this. He was the war god young island lord in the hearts of the Godless Island's islanders. He was the Godless Island's islanders' revered young island lord. His reputation absolutely could not be ruined. He had to admit that Yiqing Luo had grasped Dao Yegan's Achilles heel. It was a simple speech. Dao Yegan could only obediently hand over the antidote. He even regretted and was annoyed that he had revealed the poison in Yin Xiao Yi's body. Asterisk. Chapter 2042. After getting the antidote, Yi Qing Luo didn't immediately let Yin Xiao Yi consume it. She used the 100-pill refining technique to filter the ingredients of the antidote. After confirming that the antidote did not contain any ingredients that could harm her life, she placed the antidote into the profound Phoenix ring, although she filtered it again. But in the end, he still had to let the ghost doctor personally confirm it. After all, the 100 refinement pill was just a secret manual. He didn't know how to be flexible. Better safe than sorry. As it concerned Yin Xiao Yi's life, Yi Qing Luo could not take any risks. After getting the antidote, Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she looked at Dao Yegan with a smile which didn't look like a smile. She looked at Dao Yegan, whose face was filled with anger, but didn't dare to flare up as she laughed softly. Seeing that you're sensible enough to hand over the antidote, tell me, should I fulfill your reputation and let Ah Xian take your life? Dao Yegan shuddered as he abruptly raised his head and stared at Yi Qing Luo, his eyes filled with terror. In the end, he was still afraid of death. Admiring Island Yi Qian's green and white complexion, Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards contemptuously as she gave an extremely satisfied smile. Then I'll spare your lowly life. I'll also send my regards to the island master. Dao Yeqian clenched his fists tightly as his body tensed up, as if he was trying to suppress his anger. But even if he was enraged by Yi Qing Luo's ridicule, he still did not speak. Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly. She really thought that Dao Yigan was very capable. He was just a weakling who was outwardly strong but inwardly weak. Yi Qing Luo yawned lazily. On the importance of hugging onto a thick thigh. This was an example. With the antidote in hand, the battle was over. Yi Qing Luo and the others had no intention to continue staying. After all, everyone was already exhausted from the continuous battle. The new monarch Lung Feng Ying called out to the royal army, as well as the citizens who had volunteered to detain those small-sized powerhouses. The Yin family did not give up and kept calling Yin Xiao Yi's name. Earlier, the Overlord had personally admitted that Yin Xiao Yi was Yi Qing Luo's maiden's family, and in the Overlord's heart, that was a pivotal position, as long as Yin Xiao Yi was willing to save them. Get in touch with Yin Xiao Yi, then they would be able to get close to His Majesty. The Yin family scolded Yin Zhenfei and kept bad-mouthing Yin Xiao Yi. Try to recall Yin Xiao Yi's longing for kinship. However, until they were dragged away by the royal army. Yin Xiao Yi didn't even look at them. Xiao Jin looked at the exhausted woman in his arms and asked in a low voice with heartache, "Are you tired? It's too noisy here. I'll bring you back to the old mansion to rest. When the ghost doctor rushes back, you'll be able to recover." Yin Xiao Yi nodded lightly and leaned on Xiao Jin's shoulder. She closed her eyes tiredly. He was indeed very tired. It wasn't just physical exhaustion. There was also the exhaustion of his heart. Sure enough, without hope, one wouldn't be so sad. She had long been disappointed in the Yin family. Therefore, when she saw the hysterical Yin family trying to please her and beg her, that was why he could be so calm. But the human heart was made of flesh. He would be lying if he said he wasn't sad. But such sadness and exhaustion, in the end, it would disappear with the passage of time. If he softened his heart and stayed in the Yin family, the one who got hurt in the end would definitely be her. Relatives, she only needed Devil Class, the world group, and everyone. That was enough. The public square became orderly. Yi Qing Luo and the others were sent off under the citizens' respectful and revering gazes as they headed towards the direction of the old mansion. The bunch of people from Three Springs sect looked at each other in dismay and decisively chose to follow Yi Qing Luo and the others. Chapter 2043. Yi Qing Luo realized that there were hundreds of people dressed in Three Springs sect's uniform following behind. She had no choice but to send them back to Three Springs sect to tidy up the mess that Yi Qing Qian and Yi Feng Ru had created. After things had settled down, she would hold the Three Springs sect's patriarch succession ceremony. The hundreds of people from Three Springs sect were completely submissive towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's command made them respond in unison, yes. After that, the hundreds of them turned around and rushed towards the direction of Three Springs sect. Just at this moment, a sharp voice was heard. Who dares to leave? That voice. Yiqing Luo paused and looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw Yifeng Ru holding a dagger against Nangong Lin's neck. His usually elegant face was now filled with madness and malevolence. He restrained Nangong Lin and bellowed, "I'm the patriarch of Three Springs sect. I'm the patriarch. You bunch of traitors of Three Springs sect. Are you trying to betray Three Springs sect?" The hundreds of people from Three Springs sect were stunned by Yifeng Ru's malevolent expression. In their hearts, Yifeng Ru had always been a good young master. He was in charge of all the expenses of Three Springs sect, exhausting his own ability to contribute silently for Three Springs sect. But what was it that made their gentle and refined second young master turn into such a state? Power? Ambition? Or is he just like that? Yifeng Ru. Nangong Firen looked at him in disbelief. Do you know what you're doing? Do you know who you're pointing your dagger at? Yifeng Ru stared fiercely at Nangong Firen. If you still treat me as your brother, go and kill Yiqing Luo. Avenge Chanqian. Yifeng Ru, have you lost your mind? Nangong Firen gritted his teeth in anger. He had never hated Chanqian's existence as much as now. Yifeng Ru sneered. I'm not crazy, I'm clear-headed. Nangong Firen, you like Yiqing Luo, so you won't feel heartache for Chanqian dying in her hands. But I feel heartache. Chanqian was such a good lady, and she died just like that. She died without a complete corpse. As he spoke, Yifeng Ru's voice became as terrifying as a devil's. He increased the strength in his hand and said, I lost my beloved woman. Don't you feel bad for Nangong Lin? Fine, I'll kill her. I'll kill her and let you have a taste of what it feels like to lose someone you value. Yifeng Ru, Brother Ru, Nangong Lin felt a sharp pain in her neck, and her eyes were filled with astonishment. She could feel a warm liquid seeping out her neck. That pain was nothing compared to the pain in her heart. Nangong Lin couldn't help but shed tears. Big Brother Ru, you promised me that you'd forget about Big Sister Chanqian. As long as I cooperate with you and help you escape, you'll be with me. Why? Why are you treating me like this? Nangong Lin felt as though her heart was being torn apart. It was precisely because she loved Yifeng Ru. Therefore, she knew that her brother would be angry. Without hesitation, she chose to use herself as a hostage to help Yifeng Ru escape. But Yifeng Ru wanted to kill her. Nangong Lin wasn't stupid. She could feel the biting, cold, murderous intent from Yifeng Ru. He really wanted to kill her. Lin, don't you like me very much? So now, in order to let your brother Ru be happy, for Brother Ru to die, isn't that good? Yifeng Ru listened to Nangong Lin's broken sobs as he leaned close to her ear and laughed maniacally. Chapter 2044. Yifeng Ru, you bastard. Nangong Firen's chest heaved with anger. His eyes turned scarlet, but he did not dare to act rashly. He was afraid that he would move. Yifeng Ru would really kill Nangong Lin in the heat of the moment. Even Nangong Firen, who had known Yifeng Ru for several years, had never seen Yifeng Ru in such a sick state. Bastard, you're the one who doesn't care about Chanqian. Don't tell me you're not a bastard. Yifeng Ru laughed instead of getting angry. Chanqian colluded with the dark forces. That's what she deserved. Even if she didn't die, my Killing God mercenary group will not tolerate her. Nangong Firen frowned and said, Ru, for the sake of our many years of life and death together, let Lin go. I won't hold this against you. Ha ha ha. Between us, from the moment you fell in love with Yiqing Luo, there's no more brotherhood to speak of. Yifeng Ru roared malevolently. The dagger in his hand increased the strength. Nangong Lin screamed in pain and struggled to break free. Nangong Firen's eyes were bloodshot and his body was tense. Looking at the dagger, he really didn't hesitate to slash his sister's neck. Nangong Firen could no longer hold back and lunged forward. Boom! Ah! Two voices sounded at the same time. The sound of something falling to the ground was heard. It was the sound of the man screaming in pain again. Nangong Firen dashed forward and caught Nangong Lin, who was weak and feeble, in his arms. His hands were trembling slightly. Lin, Nangong Firen's voice was trembling. Nangong Lin, who had lost too much blood, blinked her eyelashes weakly. She stared at Nangong Firen's face with unfocused eyes. After a long while, he finally managed to get it into focus. Brother. Nangong Lin's voice was weak as she panted heavily. I'm sorry. Nangong Firen quickly tore off his clothes and covered her neck. Don't talk, Lin. I will save you. I will definitely save you. Nangong Lin blinked her eyes weakly. She parted her lips slightly and breathed out silently. However, he could not utter a single word. It was only when death arrived that Nangong Lin realized how foolish she had been. Only by experiencing pain would one know how to grow. She bitterly loved a man who didn't love her back. She even made her brother sad for her. She was really a failure of a sister. If there was a next life, she still wanted to be her brother's sister. But next time, she would be the one to love him. His consciousness gradually dissipated. Nangong Lin felt as light as a feather. Was his soul about to leave his body? She could still vaguely hear her brother shouting her name at the top of his lungs. She wanted to laugh and reassure her brother. But I really don't have any strength left. Isn't it just a stab? Why do you have to make it seem like a drama? Suddenly, a speechless and impatient voice sounded. Nangong Lin felt as if something was stuffed into her mouth. Then, his light body was suddenly pulled down. His consciousness gradually became clear. Then he felt a sharp pain in his neck. She let out a blood-curdling scream. His voice was a little hoarse, but it wasn't as weak as before. Nangong Firen tightened his grip and looked at Nangong Lin with joy. Linner, look at your brother. Look at your brother. Nangong Lin's eyes met Nangong Firen's. She opened her mouth and wanted to speak. She felt another sharp pain in her neck. That irritating and impatient voice sounded again. If you don't want your throat to be damaged, you'd better shut up. Nangong Lin held her breath. Through Nangong Firen's shoulder, she saw a young girl dressed in red crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at her with an impatient expression. Chapter 2045. It was Yi Qing Luo. It was actually Yi Qing Luo. Nangong Lin's eyes widened as she looked at Yi Qing Luo in shock. Why did Yi Qing Luo come out to save her? Obviously, she had also done many overboard things to Yi Qing Luo. He had always treated Yi Qing Luo as a thorn in his side. Why did Yi Qing Luo save her at this moment? Don't look at me with such loving eyes. Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes at Nangong Lin. Whether you're dead or alive, I really don't care, but I don't want my second brother who betrayed Three Springs sect to have his way. You. Nangong Lin's face turned pale. She knew that this woman was not a kind person. Nangong Firen immediately covered Nangong Lin's mouth. Linner, don't talk. Big brother will take you back to the Nangong family. The doctor will heal your injuries. Nangong Lin's mouth moved, but she stopped because of the sharp pain in her throat. After Nangong Firen comforted his younger sister, he carried Nangong Lin in his arms and stood up. He looked at Yi Qing Luo. There wasn't the slightest bit of unnecessary emotion in his eyes. Her eyes were clear and filled with gratitude. Miss Yi Qing Luo, no matter what the reason was for you to lend a helping hand, I only know that you've saved my sister and also stopped Ru from doing something that he would definitely regret for the rest of his life. Nangong Firen's voice was clear and gentle. This kindness, the Nangong family will always remember it in our hearts. In future, if Miss Yi Qing Luo needs any help, I will represent the Nangong family to make a promise that no matter if we have to climb a mountain of swords or descend into a sea of flames, the Nangong family will not hesitate. As soon as he finished speaking, Nangong Firen fell to his knees. Brother, Nangong Lin could not help but spit out a word. Her eyes were filled with shock. For as long as she could remember, her brother had always been proud. Her brother was the most talented child in the Nangong family, an existence that everyone in the Nangong family revolved around. It could be said that she had never seen her brother suffer any grievances or pain. But today, her brother had knelt before a 15-year-old girl. This girl was also a girl that she had once held in extreme disdain. Even now, she still couldn't like that girl. However, she suddenly understood something. Why was her brother obviously in love with Yi Qing Luo, but he had been hiding the reason for his feelings? Such an insolent and unbridled girl. How could her brother control it? The god-slaying mercenary group's mercenaries, who had followed Nangong Firen here, saw Nangong Firen kneeling. He immediately followed Nangong Firen and knelt down in Yi Qing Luo's direction. As long as Missy needs help, the god-killing mercenary group will not hesitate. This scene left the surrounding factions and countless commoners dumbfounded. Nangong family. It was a clan that was equally as famous as the four great profounder clans. In particular, Nangong Firen had appeared in this generation, making the Nangong family even more powerful. In the West Continent, even the four great profounder clans had to give the Nangong clan some face. Since the Nangong clan was so powerful, why didn't the Nangong clan join the four great clans when the Shangwan clan was removed from the list of profounder clans? The main reason was that the Nangong clan did not care about their reputation. If the Nangong family wanted to, there was no such thing as the Shangwan clan or the Yuchi clan among the four great profounder clans. Looking at the Killing God mercenary group, that was the third-ranked mercenary group in the mercenary guild. Usually, even if he spent a lot of money, he might not be able to hire the Killing God mercenary group. Today, the Killing God mercenary group had offered to run errands for Yi Qing Luo. Asterisk. Chapter 2046. Couldn't be envious. Couldn't be envious. Couldn't be envious. However, everyone felt that this was a great honor. But the main character who enjoyed this honor didn't seem excited at all. That unparalleled face that could topple cities was calm and collected. Yi Qing Luo looked at Nangong Firen calmly as her pink lips moved slightly, spitting out a few words. Remember what you said today. Wasn't this a little too insolent? But why the hell did they feel that insolent was very handsome? Yi Qing Luo was a lady. How could a lady be so handsome? Those female citizens had long thrown away their reservations as they screamed Yi Qing Luo's name. The other men, their charm was not even comparable to a 15-year-old lady. Shouldn't they reflect on their actions? Yi Qing Luo didn't pay attention to the thoughts of the surrounding citizens and the various powerhouses. Her gaze swept past the Death God mercenary group and finally landed on Nangong Firen. Her voice was still that calm and indifferent. There is gold under a man's knees. No matter how grateful you are, don't easily offer your knees. I have not done anything to make you kneel down to me. Her words made the Death God mercenary group and Nangong Firen stunned. Before they regained their senses, Yi Qing Luo had already walked past them as she walked straight ahead. A few of them were stunned for several breaths. One by one, they stood up from the ground. Right, Yi Qing Luo was right. There was gold under a man's knees. No matter how grateful they were, they shouldn't offer their knees so casually. Yi Qing Luo's target was Yi Fengru, who was sent flying. Yi Qing Luo's palm strike had used 50% of her strength. Yi Fengru's internal organs were all heavily injured. He couldn't even support his body to stand up. Yi Fengru laid in a pool of blood with his limbs spread out. His robe was stained with blood. He looked like a demon bathed in blood. Yes, a demon. A head of white hair. A pair of red eyes seemed to have merged with the pool of blood on the ground. The crazed expression on Yi Fengru's face didn't diminish at all. When he saw Yi Qing Luo, he laughed maniacally instead. Looking at Yi Qing Luo, who was laughing hysterically, Yi Qing Luo suddenly recalled the first time she met Yi Fengru. He wore a plain soft robe and smiled warmly at her. At that time, she brought Yi Fengru away from the ancestral hall, but was stopped by second madam. It was Yi Fengru who appeared and gave Yi Fengru the best time for treatment. Although Yi Fengru had always been suspicious of Yi Fengru. However, she had never imagined that there would come a day when she and Yi Fengru would end up in such a situation. Yi Qing Luo. Ha ha ha. If you can't take revenge for Qian Qian, then kill me. kill me, and let me go to that world to reunite with Qianqian. His hoarse voice was roaring like a madman. Those once gentle eyes were now filled with hatred. Yiqing Luo half squatted down as her pink lips curled up into a smile that didn't look like a smile. What right do you have to avenge her? Yi Fengru's voice faltered, and his expression became fierce. Because in this world, only I truly love her. Ha! You love her, so you're accompanying her to become a demon? Your love is really superficial. Yiqing Luo sneered with extreme disdain. Yi Fengru was stunned. What do you mean? True love is not to accompany her to be bewitched, to bring calamity to the common people, but to rein in when she does something wrong. Asterisk. Chapter 2047. Yiqing Luo said calmly, if you really love Zi Qianqian, then when Zi Qianqian is arrogant and conceited and thinks that she's the only one, you should wake her up and not let her repeatedly sink into her own delusions. Her tone was obviously very indifferent. Her voice was obviously very light. But unfortunately, it was like thunder exploding in Yi Fengru's heart. He wanted to retort, to express that this was his way of loving Zi Qianqian, accepting everything about Zi Qianqian, loving Zi Qianqian without any bottom line. But, meeting Yiqing Luo's calm and indifferent eyes, Yi Fengru's words were all stuck in his throat. If it wasn't because of your indulgence, why would Zi Qianqian feel aggrieved after losing to me? Unable to accept her own failure? In the end, for the so-called victory, she was willing to submit to the dark forces. When Yiqing Luo said this, she gave an extremely disdainful smile. In this place where martial arts are advocated, ability is the most important, where the weak are prey to the strong, self-confidence and conceit will not allow one to survive. What can really support us to go further is our own ability. Zi Qianqian's failure was because her ability was obviously not strong, but because of your flattery, she was unable to recognize her true self and finally ended up in such an outcome. When Yiqing Luo spoke, her tone was very light and spoke very slowly. From the start to the end, Yi Fengru had not opened his mouth to stop her. Yiqing Luo's lips curled, her eyes were cold, as she fixed her gaze on Yi Fengru, word by word, extremely cruel. Yi Fengru, Zi Qianqian's real death is because of you. You caused Zi Qianqian's death. Yi Fengru's expression was a riot of colors. His face was filled with shock, unable to accept Yiqing Luo's words. But unfortunately, he was unable to refute a single word. Tears overflowed from his eyes. Yiqing Luo slowly stood up. I won't kill you, but you killed your father, forcefully snatched the position of Three Springs Sect's patriarch, and instigated generations of good people in Three Springs Sect to join the dark forces. Almost becoming a traitor, you must atone for this matter. Yi Fengru laid on the ground, his eyes empty. His thoughts had already drifted somewhere. These words, Yiqing Luo hadn't said it to him before. Whether or not Yi Fengru would listen, she didn't care. Public opinion was a sharp weapon at any time, even if she didn't care. But now, she was the representative of Devil Class, the representative of the World Mercenary Group. In the future, she would become Dmo Shin's wife. She couldn't allow any dirt on her. There couldn't be anything that could be used to attack in the future. Yi Fengru was her second brother, even if they were traitors. She had killed Yi Fengru. Those who knew the truth would think that she was putting her family before righteousness. It was a magnificent act. However, those who didn't know would only think that he was cold-blooded and merciless to the point that he would even lay his hands on his own kin. Yiqing Luo looked at Yi Fengru's dazed look and sighed softly. She took out a pill from her bosom. With a flick of his finger, the pill slid into Yi Fengru's mouth. His eyelashes trembled, but there was no reaction. Zhang San, Zhang Si, brings second young master back to Three Springs Sect's dungeon. After the patriarch's succession ceremony, then carry out the execution. Yiqing Luo waved her hand, as though she was extremely exhausted. Zhang San and Zhang Si were the first to put down their weapons after listening to Yiqing Luo's words, and chose to be loyal to Three Springs Sect's initial choice. Choosing Yiqing Luo as the young sect patriarch. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, the both of them ran over eagerly, one on the left and one on the right to support Yi Fengru. Young sect patriarch, don't worry, we will definitely complete the task. Asterisk. Chapter 2048. Three Springs Sect's farce had finally come to an end. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers pressed against her aching glabella. She was just about to stretch her waist. Her slender waist was embraced by Dmo Xian. Yi Qing Luo didn't care that this was the Nirvana realm which had yet to be opened up. She lazily buried herself into Dmo Xian's arms. Is there anything else that hasn't been settled? Dmo Xian replied gently. No. Take a rest first. I will accompany you. Perhaps his voice was too gentle. Perhaps it was because his embrace was too comforting. Yi Qing Luo actually really fell into a deep sleep in his arms. A golden road extended to the front, as far as the eye could see, as if there was no end. An awe-inspiring group of 30 people led the ropes that tied up thousands of people as they walked on the path created by the golden light. The historian who had been following behind the historian couldn't hide his thoughts. He quickly walked forward and whispered into the historian's ear, Sir Historian, that Yi Qing Luo, what is her background? The historian's icy, cold expression congealed as he frowned slightly. Why do you ask? Because I can tell that Sir Historian should be siding with Yi Qing Luo. This historian and the historian were like brothers, so he didn't hold back when he spoke. He took a look at the surroundings and suppressed his voice, using only the two of them to continue speaking. Those two people from the Earth realm sneaked into the lower realm, and that indeed violated the balance of the lower realm. It's indeed normal for us to capture him, but I still feel that if Yi Qing Luo wasn't around, we should still give face to Godless Island. He paused. Anyway, that man called Yuhan seems to be related to the God realm. The historian didn't mention the Overlord, because before the Overlord appeared, the Overlord was already siding with Yi Qing Luo. The appearance of the Overlord merely made the historian more determined to stand on Yi Qing Luo's side. The historian had been unable to understand. When the historian was probing Yi Qing Luo's true profound grade, he revealed an expression. That kind of shock, as if he couldn't believe it. A young lady from the lower realm. Who could make the historian reveal such an expression? And after that, he directly sided with Yi Qing Luo. The expression on the historian's face was somewhat complicated. After a moment of silence, he quickened his pace. Seeing this, the scribe immediately followed, until the distance between them and the other court historians was 10 meters away. Administrator then suppressed his voice as he said word by word, that Yi Qing Luo is not simple. She is indeed only a sky profound grade cultivator. When the scribe heard this, his eyes were filled with astonishment. But the power that we sensed in the heavenly law realm is definitely not only at the profound heavens realm. That is a power that can shake the entire realm of gods. He thought that when Lord Librarian had checked on Yi Qing Luo's profound grade, he had intentionally concealed it for her. After all, when they sensed a strong fluctuation in the lower realm had already been destroyed. Even a master of the heavenly law was startled. That power was definitely not released by a profound practitioner of the sky, profound realm. That's what surprises me. The scribe's expression was grave. When I was probing her profound rank, I sensed the profound heart jade in her body. That is who are you? Suddenly, a wave of miserable cries sounded from behind them. The scribes lost their heads out of fear, becoming extremely chaotic. Chapter 2049. Those 20 over-court officials had unknowingly fallen onto the ground. The ropes in their hands had already been cut into several pieces. The surviving members of the Dark Forces, as well as Yuhan and the elderly, were all released. The librarian's face sunk as he shouted, "Who are you? How dare you disturb the order of the court officials?" The surviving members of the Dark Forces who had been rescued looked at their bound hands in shock. He had never thought that he would be saved. After Yuhan was rescued, his face revealed a joyous expression. To be able to appear in front of the court officials at this moment, and under the supervision of 20 over court officials, to rescue over 1,000 of them, other than his revered lord. There was no one else. He joyfully scanned the surroundings, but after looking for some time, he didn't manage to find the revered lord. Just as he was puzzled, Ghost Female's sinister voice rang in his mind. Yuhan, the revered lord has orders. Bring these people to Godless Island. Yes. Yuhan accepted the order, exercised the joints of her hands, and immediately raised her voice. Someone is here to save us. If you don't want to be locked up in the heavenly prison, then leave with me. I guarantee that I will give you a chance to turn around. Yuhan's voice was very cold, and the power to stir one's heart was not enough. But at this moment, those people from the dark forces, especially those few holy techniques in Pharaoh, were only thinking of surviving, to seek revenge from Wolf Holy Technique. The Dark Forces' main camp had already been leveled by the Imperial Palace. They had no chance to go to Nirvana Realm. If they had a chance to turn around, even if they had to lower their heads, they were willing. For a moment, no one rebutted Yuhan's words, as they all rushed towards Yuhan's direction. When the 30 court officials saw this, they were about to stop them. However, there was a formless power in the air that blocked their path. The librarian's face sunk. Circulating his profound energy, he struck that barrier. The moment the profound energy came into contact with the profound energy, it instantly dissipated. They could only watch Yuhan and that Earth Realm elderly, bringing thousands of surviving members of the Dark Forces, disappearing before their eyes. Nirvana Realm. By the time Yiqing Luo woke up, the situation in West Continent was already under control and slowly stabilized. The West Wave Continent's losses in this battle were actually not too disastrous, because of Yiqing Luo's relationship with Devil Class. The ones who suffered heavy losses were the Dark Forces and the small forces that joined the Dark Forces. Lung Feng Ying was indeed a sovereign king's talent. After the war ended, he took the opportunity to rope in the various forces that had participated in the war. In the name of the monarch, he set up a banquet to thank them for their help. All of them, regardless of their previous status. They were given various titles according to their performance on the battlefield. Although, because of the existence of the 4 great sections, the royal family of each continent was not considered the most noble family. However, he was still the king of the continent. They were second only to the 4 great sections. Being able to obtain a title, the various major forces were also very satisfied. Furthermore, it was also because of this battle. The relationship between the major forces had also become a step closer. Gradually, it evolved into a situation of mutual cooperation and mutual restraint. In this way, the Western continent became much more peaceful. When she saw the 2 forces' big bosses, who used to not interact with each other, now had their arms around each other's shoulders, coming to the old residence, saying to thank Yiqing Luo for her contribution to the Western continent. Yiqing Luo's mind, which had just regained consciousness, was still in a daze. Asterisk. Chapter 2050. Yiqing Luo went into a daze. A certain man who was standing beside her instantly emitted an extremely low pressure. Originally, they were still smiling as they kept on praising Yiqing Luo and expressing their gratitude, but now they felt a chill down their spines. Their vision slowly shifted to the side of the bed, towards that man dressed in a purple robe, who looked like a banished immortal. They silently shut their mouths, succumbing to the Overlord's might, timidly indicating that they were prepared to leave. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand to tug Mo Xian's arm, but she had just fallen asleep and had no energy at all. This raised hand didn't even touch the white veil in front of her as it drooped down softly. When her hand softly fell back onto the bed, Ji Yunshu's eyes widened. Mo Xian's large palm wrapped around her little hand in time. Yiqing Luo held his large palm and gently squeezed it. Following that, she smiled and looked at the 2 people standing by the door through the veil, speaking softly. Thank you both for your concern. I'm indebted to both of you for thinking highly of me. I've just woken up and my body is not feeling well. I hope both of you can forgive me. The 2 powerhouses' bosses nodded repeatedly, It's all right, were the ones disturbing Miss Ye's rest. After the two leaders of the forces left, Yi Qingtong's eyes lit up. Mo Xian's cold voice was heard from the room. Mo Yuing, go tell Long Yunzhan and Tong Ziqing. If anyone else were to come, both of them will receive them. Don't bother Lil Luo with these trivial matters. The two powerhouses' bosses at the door shuddered. This should be the first time they were told about trivial matters. The key point was that they didn't dare to get angry. Of course, they didn't feel any displeasure. Instead, he secretly sighed in his heart. The Overlord really dotes on his wife. Only a woman like Miss Yi, who has descended from the mortal world, can be a match for the Overlord. Yes. Suddenly, a soft voice, but the tone was extremely stiff, rang behind them like a ghost. The two powerhouses were so scared that they almost screamed out loud. They looked towards the direction of the voice. Unknowingly, a pink loli had appeared behind him. She looked like a pink dumpling. She looked sweet and extremely adorable. However, he had an expressionless face, a pair of empty and soulless eyes, and a body that was as stiff as a corpse ghost. The two of them didn't care about their status as powerhouses as they screamed and ran away. Mo Yuing stared at their backs as she stiffly raised her hand and touched her face. She tilted her head and blinked her cute big eyes. Am I really very scary? She froze on the spot for a moment. She moved her head once again. I'd better bring D. Zun's words to the class monitor and Sister Ziqing. Overlord might really make her very scary. The Overlord might really turn her into a very scary person. Inside the house, Yiqing Luo stared at Mo Xian resentfully. Zhan was almost captured by those people from that domain on the battlefield, and he's also seriously injured. How can we let him receive those powerhouses' bosses? Luo Yi Xian Yi Luo Xiao and said, Ling 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 Luo Ming God. Yi Ling Luo Ling Yi Di Yi Luo Chun Luo Ling Long and Ling Chen Luo. He Luo King and he at Ling Luo Chun Ling Ling Luo. Luo Yi 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 R. Yi Ling Luo Yi. Chapter 2051. The smile on the corners of Yiqing Luo's lips gradually faded. After a long time, she laughed lightly. I know, even if I have the legendary Overlord as my backing, it still cannot stop the expansion of humans' ambition. She held Mo Xian's hand as she slowly leaned against the headboard. I have a god relic, a sacred beast, and an extremely powerful mirage beast. Moreover, I have a bunch of brave and good fighters, a team of brothers who will definitely grow to a terrifying height in future. Behind me, not only Heavenly Academy, there's Guei Yu, there's Ghost Doctor, there's also the main hospital, plus an alchemist guild, Mu family, and Shi family, as well as those powerhouses and you. Her voice was very soft. So soft that if one didn't listen carefully, one wouldn't be able to hear what she was saying clearly. All these are really the highest honor. Guess how many people, because of me, will have their ambitions stirred? Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly, as though the person she was talking about wasn't herself. Mo Xian sighed softly. The solemn expression on his face also dissipated a little. He understood his Lil Luo. Naturally, he could tell that Lil Luo really didn't put it in her heart. His Lil Luo was really different from other ladies. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she looked at Mo Xian's peerless face with a light smile. A good-looking man, no matter how one looked, one would never get tired of him. No matter how one looked, she wanted to press him down fiercely. 18 types of teasing displayed on him. Alas, it was probably because she had overdrawn the God Relic's energy, causing her profound heart jade to be out of control. When she woke up, she only had the chance to stare at Mo Xian with her eyes. The young lady's naked, undisguised gaze made Mo Xian unable to restrain his laughter. His slender fingers touched Yiqing Luo's forehead as he poked hard. You've just woken up. What nonsense are you thinking about again? Want to sleep with you? Yiqing Luo replied without any hesitation. Her eyes sparkled as she blinked, not concealing the thought of sleeping with Mo Xian. Mo Xian's smile grew wider. Which lady would talk about sleeping with him? Especially the meaning of this sleep It was especially broad and profound. You can think about it after your body recovers. Dmo Xian's hand slid to her cheek as he pinched it harshly. I haven't even settled the score with you. How dare you not listen to me and forcefully use the power of the god relic? Do you really think that you're an iron wall? Won't I be devoured by the divine artifact? Yiqing Luo cried out in pain as her eyes filled with tears, looking at Dmo Xian pitifully. Activate your ultimate skill, the ultimate move of acting cute. Dmo Xian took the bait and released her face. He stretched out his long arm and pulled her into his embrace. He said in a bad mood, "You're always messing around. You clearly know that your profound heart jade is very likely to cause a backlash if you're not careful. How dare you joke around with your own life? Can't I say a few words to you?" It was an emergency. I couldn't do anything. Yiqing Luo put on a pitiful expression and continued to use her ultimate move. Isn't Feng Ling hooked now? Wait till I get the tranquil bead, then I won't be afraid anymore. Dmo Xian didn't look at her as he hardened his voice. Even if you get the tranquil pearl, you're not allowed to mess around like today. Otherwise, he suppressed his voice, revealing a bit of magnetism. I'll make it so that you won't be able to get off the bed and mess around outside. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red as she shrunk her body into the quilt, but her mouth refused to show weakness. All right, I want to see whether it's you who can't get off the bed or me who can't get off the bed. Asterisk. Chapter 2052. Dmo Xian's eyes dimmed. His Adam's apple moved. Suddenly, he leaned forward and pressed on top of Yiqing Luo. A head full of black hair cascaded down. The soft hair brushed past Yiqing Luo's face. The feeling it brought was like a feather, teasing her bit by bit. Yiqing Luo's heart skipped a few beats. Her eyes stared unblinkingly at Dmo Xian's handsome face, which was just inches away from her. On purpose. His magnetic hoarse voice was mellow like fine wine, exuding an intoxicating charm. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red. Her eyelashes fluttered, not saying a word. Yes, she was teasing him on purpose. Deliberately, when Dmo Xian could only look but not eat. Using words to provoke him. Who asked him to release such a strong masculine hormone every time? After he seduced her and made her fall head over heels for him, he wouldn't let her have it. Now, it was time to let him have a taste of the feeling of only looking but not eating. Dmo Xian's thin lips curled upwards. That devilish arc added a bit of demonic charm to him. His peach blossom eyes seemed to carry thousands of charming lights. Like a poppy, constantly tempting Yiqing Luo's vision. He obviously saw through Yiqing Luo's thoughts, but on purpose, teasing Yiqing Luo with even more strength. It was just a smile, but it had already made Yiqing Luo throw away her armor, her heart thumping wildly. You tormenting little demoness. You're the one who is doing it on purpose. Yiqing Luo stuffed her head back into the blanket as she curled up and cried out loudly. Ow, ow, ow. No energy. No energy. You're still trying to seduce me. Must you force me to attack my heart with lust? Dmo Xian was taken aback by such an earth-shattering remark. After a while, he shook his head helplessly. Only a shocking woman like you dares to say such words so straightforwardly. Yiqing Luo snorted and moved towards the bedside. You're my man, I want you, desire you. Isn't this a matter of course? Since you want it, why can't you say it? She moved a little. Her body bumped into Dmo Xian's arms on both sides of her. Yiqing Luo could only give up on escaping as she wrapped herself in the blanket again. If there comes a day when I don't want you, or don't crave for you anymore, I reckon you will start to reflect on whether you're not handsome enough to attract me anymore. It was as if he was imagining that scene. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but burst out laughing. She was just saying it casually. Dmo Xian took it seriously. His expression sunk as his 5 fingers suddenly clasped Yiqing Luo's lower jaw tightly. A pair of black obsidian, dazzling peach blossom eyes stared unblinkingly at the girl beneath him. How dare you? His tone was tense as he stared at her. If you don't want me, I'll. It was rare to see such a lofty, noble, and elegant man behaving like a child. Yiqing Luo also harbored some thoughts of teasing. She deliberately raised her eyebrows and snorted. "What about you? Do you want to kill me?" He tightened his grip on her chin. However, he controlled himself well and did not hurt her. Suddenly, he leaned forward. His scorching hot body was tightly pressed against hers. His head drooped on her shoulder. The man's low, husky, magnetic voice drifted into her ear. "Otherwise, I'll trap you on the bed, making you never get tired of my body." "You." Yiqing Luo's face flushed red again. Damn it, he's playing this trick again. She would become so desperate to sleep with Mo Xian. She must have been led astray by Mo Xian. Bam! The tightly shut door was suddenly pushed open and a few figures rushed into the room in a hurry. Asterisk. Chapter 2053. Luo girl, I heard that you used up your profound heart jade again. He didn't finish his words. The voice stopped abruptly. Rushing through the night from South Tide Continent. The minute he returned, he heard the details of Yiqing Luo's great battle. Ghost Doctor, who was extremely worried, was stunned. Gui Wu, Zhou Mo, as well as Kitty Li, who was in Zhou Mo's embrace, were all stunned. On the bed, the white muslin fluttered. A man and a woman, one above and one below, although separated by a layer of quilt. Although they were all dressed neatly. However, this gender, this location, and this posture, no matter what, it was impossible for people to not think about it. "Stinking brat, what are you doing?" Ghost Doctor reacted and immediately rushed forward in a flustered and exasperated manner, grabbing onto Mo Xian's collar, lifting him up and throwing him to one side. A group of people suddenly rushed into the room. Mo Xian was also stunned. When the Ghost Doctor rushed over, he couldn't react in time. It was only when the Ghost Doctor grabbed onto his collar that he snapped back to his senses. In the instant that the Ghost Doctor flung him out, he steadied himself and stood steadily in a corner of the room. Ghost Doctor's face sunk as he pulled up the veil and immediately pointed at Mo Xian as he rebuked angrily. Last Luo's profound heart jade has been depleted, and her body is so weak that even an ant can't be pinched to death. You actually want to take advantage of her when she's down? Is that all you can think about? Mo Xian was dumbfounded by the scolding. Gui Wu coughed lightly. What the Ghost Doctor said is extremely true. Zun, your actions this time were indeed inappropriate. Zomo's phoenix eyes were filled with thick banter and ridicule. Overlord, this young master isn't as impatient as you. Why can't you control your lower body? Qing Luo's current body is not able to take up your demands. That's right. Each person's sentence made Mo Xian's expression turn gloomier and gloomier. The atmosphere in the room instantly turned gloomy. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines. Their mocking words were stuck in their throats. Cough, cough, cough. We actually just wanted to see how Qing Luo's body is, and from the looks of it, she should be fine. Zhou Mo shrank his neck. A grown man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. He was no match for Mo Xian. He decisively admitted defeat. He hugged Kitty Li tightly and moved towards the door. I've just eaten a mouthful of dog food, and now I'm going to spread dog food everywhere with my little wild cat. Bah, who wants to show off their affection to you? Kitty Li glared at him in annoyance. Other than you, who else is in yours truly's embrace? Zhou Mo lowered his head and smiled wickedly as he whispered into Kitty Li's ear. Could it be that you really want this young master to show off his affection to other women? You, Kitty Li bit her lips as her cat eyes flickered with rage. Zhou Mo laughed heartily. Be good, be good. Don't be jealous, little wild cat. I will only flaunt my affection with you. Kitty Li glared at him. Kitty wants to reject you. Zhou Mo held Kitty Li in one hand and touched his extremely devilish face with the other. I'm so handsome, elegant, and elegant. I'm a handsome man with both beauty and talent. How am I ugly? It's ugly everywhere. This pair of sweet and childish lovers left the room just like that. It was these two people who broke the awkward atmosphere in the room. Ghost Doctor's expression was still extremely ugly. He stood by the bedside as his eyes were filled with disapproval. He stared at DMO Xian and Yi Qing Luo. He looked as though he couldn't wait to strangle the both of them. Master Ghost Doctor. Yi Qing Luo's soft voice was filled with a coquettish tone. You've misunderstood. Xian and I are not like what you think. Asterisk. Chapter 2054. It was still all right if he didn't mention it. The minute it was mentioned, Ghost Doctor wanted to explode again. Not what I thought. Then what is it? Don't you know your own body best? Allowing that Overlord to do anything to you. Don't you know how to reject? Ghost Doctor was fuming as he grabbed Yi Qing Luo's wrist, checking her pulse. Why did I waste so much time on you? Is this how you repay me? Since you don't care about your own body, then what am I still doing here? I might as well return to my pill refining room to refine my pills. He was obviously scolding her, but his actions obviously showed that he was still feeling heartache for Yi Qing Luo. His mouth was sharp, but his heart was soft. Yi Qing Luo heard Ghost Doctor's accusation, but didn't rebuke him. Instead, she looked at Ghost Doctor with a light smile. When Ghost Doctor's gaze looked over, Yi Qing Luo's pair of charming eyes would blink, showing an extreme grievance. Ghost Doctor watched and watched. In the end, he was defeated by Yi Qing Luo's big move. He released Yi Qing Luo's wrist and sighed. Lass, your innate talent is very strong, and your body is born with a profound jade heart, which makes others envious. But you must remember one thing, your body is after all a mortal's body. Your current body, especially the damaged profound jade heart, is totally unable to take on any energy which exceeds your body's capacity. Do you know, if it wasn't for that Overlord, that fellow's exhaustion this time. Cough, cough, cough. DMO Xian, who had been standing in the corner with a gloomy face, suddenly coughed violently. That dry and loud cough interrupted Ghost Doctor's words. Ghost Doctor stared at DMO Xian unhappily. Seeing DMO Xian touching his throat, as he kept on coughing, he seemed to have understood something. Turning his head back, he looked at Yi Qing Luo and changed the topic. Anyway, lass, if there's a next time, even if it's the great Luo deity, he won't be able to save you. Yi Qing Luo listened to Ghost Doctor's words seriously. Naturally, she didn't miss out on the two words, Overlord, that he intentionally mentioned earlier. DMO Xian's cough was so dry, so obvious. Who didn't know that he intentionally wanted to interrupt Ghost Doctor's words? Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips. Ghost Doctor Master, say this time round, if it's not because of Xian, then what? What is it that you haven't finished saying? Did Xian for me? The Ghost Doctor averted her gaze and coughed unnaturally. Lil Luo, don't listen to that old man's nonsense. Look at me. What can happen to me? DMO Xian stopped coughing and walked over to the bedside. He opened his hands and looked at Yi Qing Luo calmly. The man's purple robe fluttered. It glistened with flowing light, as if it was plated with a layer of purple luster. It was exquisite and noble. Yi Qing Luo looked at DMO Xian, who was smiling calmly. Her expression grew increasingly unsightly. Lifting her charming eyes, she stared at DMO Xian coldly without blinking, and said word by word, You, shut up. DMO Xian's smile froze as his thin lips moved, but when he met with Yi Qing Luo's serious expression, he still stopped his voice. Master Ghost Doctor, please speak. Yi Qing Luo slowly shifted her gaze towards Ghost Doctor. She was very clear that if DMO Xian were to say it, there was a possibility that he would bluff her away. The Master Ghost Doctor never lied, and he disdained to lie. Ghost Doctor took a look at DMO Xian before he opened his mouth. I've already said this the last time. That battle with King of Darkness had seriously damaged your control over your profound heart jade. If you're not careful, you will suffer the backlash from the profound heart jade. Chapter 2055. Although the pendant that Dizun gave you can temporarily suppress the power of your profound jade heart, you forcefully used up the power of the divine tool twice this time. The Ghost Doctor's expression was extremely grave. Once again, you allowed the Divine Phoenix profound heart jade to control your body. Although this kind of domination was due to the Divine Phoenix profound heart jade's protective consciousness. However, Yiqing Luo's mortal body simply could not withstand the power of the divine phoenix profound heart jade. Ghost Doctor's gaze shifted onto Mo Xian once again. If it wasn't for Di Zun expending 30% of his profound strength to help you suppress the backlash from the profound jade heart, you wouldn't have been able to hold on until now. Yiqing Luo drew in a breath of cold air as her expression froze. Lil Luo, Mo Xian looked at Yiqing Luo's pale face as he looked at her with heartache. I'm fine. It's just 30% profound energy. It's not enough to affect my body. I just need to rest for a few days, and I'll be able to fully recover. Yiqing Luo shook her head. She pursed her pink lips tightly as she raised her eyes and stared fixedly at Mo Xian. Her little face was pale, and her breathing was a little hurried. The Ghost Doctor and Gue Wu, who had yet to speak, could only stand up and quietly leave the room, leaving the space for the two youngsters. I'll go take a look at Xiaoyi. You follow Ziqing and find a room to stay in first. It looks like you won't be able to bring her with you in such a short time. The Ghost Doctor dragged Gue Wu towards the door. Gue Wu was helpless and could only do so. In the room, only Mo Xian and Yiqing Luo were left. Mo Xian walked over, and both his knees were placed on the side of the bed as he lowered his eyes to look at her. Lil Luo, don't look at me like that. I'm really fine. You can take my pulse and use your method to check on my body. His hand stretched out in front of her. The man's wrist was extremely sexy. It was as if his warmth could be transmitted from his wrist. Yiqing Luo fixed her gaze on the wrist in front of her. His breath sprayed on the top of her head. Yiqing Luo's eyes reddened inexplicably. My skills are too shallow. If you don't want me to tell, even if I take your pulse, I won't be able to tell anything. This lass, she really understood his personality. Mo Xian helplessly curled his thin lips as he placed his hand on her head. Then, he moved closer to the bed and sat down. The girl was still angry. She snorted and turned her head away. But that didn't stop him from getting closer. Or rather, she didn't have the strength to stop him. Lil Luo, if I didn't expend my profound energy to help you suppress the profound heart jade, the person in trouble right now would be you. Moreover, the price you will pay is very likely to be your life. As for me, I've only used up a small portion of my profound energy, and it doesn't affect my body at all. I only know that if I lose you, if I don't have you by my side in the future, that would be the most unbearable thing for me. It would be more painful than death. A teardrop fell on the bedding. She lowered her head, unable to stop her tears from flowing. The man panicked even more. Flustered, he helped her wipe the tears off her face. His voice became gentler and gentler as he coaxed her. The more he coaxed her, the more her tears flowed. I'm not blaming you. I'm angry at myself. The young girl choked with sobs as her voice was soft. She held Mo Xian's palm tightly. His scorching and wide palms made her feel as if she was being cherished in his palms. Her heart was beating wildly. The gentler Mo Xian was, the more guilty she felt. Asterisk,